Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to everyone. Welcome to the webinar on digital halalpreneurship, the halal food chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, halal entrepreneurship is a huge industry with some statistics quoting the size of the industry from as low as 7 trillion US dollars to even as high as 30 trillion US dollars. With these kinds of statistics, the halal industry is too important a subject matter for governments and corporates to ignore. While the halal industry consists of various components like healthcare, financial services, travel and tourism, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics, the biggest component remains the food and beverages segment. And to do a deep dive into the food chapter of the halal industry, iPortal Live has brought together an appetizing range of speakers talking about topics from digital impact, financial solutions for SMEs, supply chain management solutions, branding, and marketing. The halal food industry is a very important subject matter, not only because of the potential economic opportunities, but also because at the very micro individual level of a Muslim, the consumption of halal food is a key denominator for good health and for our dua and prayers to be answered by God Almighty, as narrated in various Quranic verses and hadith of the Prophet. So with that brief introduction, I have the pleasure of announcing our first agenda for today, and that's a photo shoot. While we are all still fresh and smiling, let us all switch on our videos to all speakers and participants. Put on our best smiles for a quick photo shoot before we get the entire webinar underway. Can we all switch on our cameras? And I will kindly request Hailey, the organizer, to snap a few photos. At the count of, we will do three copies or 3 photo shoots. Is everyone ready? Let me just take a look at the screen. Okay. Hailey, you're ready?
Yes.
Right, good. At the count of 3, and we will all have the first snap. 1, 2, 3, smile. And again, 1, 2, 3, smile. Or should we say 1, 2, 3, halal?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Are we good?
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you all for your kind cooperation in having the photo shoot. Now, with that brief introduction, allow me now to introduce the first speaker. The first speaker for today is Puan Rosie. Puan Rosie is an accountant and auditor by profession and is now a renowned halal subject matter expert. She is a pioneer member of the Halal Professional Board at JAKIM and a subject matter expert for several working groups to develop the world's first halal standards across various areas. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite, with great pleasure, let us all bring our hands together and hearts together to invite Puan Rosie to deliver her session titled Halal 101 Revisiting the Fundamentals. Puan Rosie, the floor is yours.
Okay, hang on a second. Thank you very much, Mr. Said. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi zidni ilma. Oh my Lord, enhance me in knowledge. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer, iPortal, for putting me in your first digital halalpreneur and also the first to start off this webinar. Inshallah, I'll do my best. From my experience, as mentioned earlier, I started off 20 years in the accountancy profession. That was, alhamdulillah, inspired by Allah, by the two accountants we have 24/7. And from there, the accountancy profession, it gives me the professional base to do halal that I have spearheaded for more than 15 years in my previous senior leadership role in my former company, Chemical Company of Malaysia, and at some national and international teams. At this point, I would like to acknowledge and appreciate all those people over these 35 years of working exposure in both industry, accountancy and halal, because they have provided me with continuous learning. And I'm still continuing to learn by listening to all my fellow speakers throughout today. So with that, I believe that knowledge is very important because Allah has already stated, how can you have patience in matters which you do not have comprehensive knowledge? So those Muslims who read Surah Al-Kahf every Friday, they would have noticed about this ayat that talk about Prophet Musa wanting to learn from another prophet. So, and that prophet said that you can't have patience when you don't have knowledge. So let's hopefully learn, unlearn, and relearn together in this matter of digital halalpreneurship. My approach today is via knowledge sharing. I'd like to have, according to how Prophet Muhammad always said, you should spread words even if in one sentence. So my focus of revisiting the halal fundamental would be via, hang on a second, overview on the halal concept through the Halal Thayyiban, the Halal Certification, and the Halal scheme. I'll also run through a bit on the halal challenges, risk and sustainability, and I will end by talking a bit about communicating halal. I've got 47 slides actually, and what I'll do is I'll go through some in detail, but some I'll skip through. So let's start fast by just looking at Halal and Thayyiban concept first. These terminologies, Shifu, Guru, Mentor, Kaizen, they are all non-English origin words, but they have ingrained into the English words, and people have good vibes about them. Halal is also a non-English word, Arabic this time, but somehow I have sensed some mixed reaction. It's not as positive as much as I would like to feel when people talk about all the previous words, Sifu, Guru, Mentor, Kaizen. The mixed feeling will come from different situations. I think as you go through my slides, we can find where are the positive and where are the negatives relating to halal. So key principles about halal, I comparing against Kaizen. Kaizen is from Japanese. It's been implemented or started from a human, Mr. Masaya Imai. But halal is from Allah, the creator of human, the creator of all of us. Kaizen, the motive is self-motivation. It's an own initiative, a human initiative. And all the references are based on human needs that we analyze ourselves. Whereas halal is a decree, a commandment from God, who knows who created us and therefore know what we want. And the major part about having halal is because it's in compliance with Maqasid Sharia, which is a universal principle to preserve faith, life, intellect, progeny, and also property. There are references on halal, also on kaizen, which is also designed by human. But for halal, the references are from the Quran and from hadith. In the Quran, there are 4 ayat that refers to kudu, which is eat, and halal and tayyiban. These are the 4 ayats, and my favorite is this Al-Ma'idah. As we go through the slides, you can see why I love this ayat. I break it into 2. The first part is this, consume of the lawful good things which Allah has provided for us as sustenance. It means that Allah has already said and already designed for us what are wholesome, tayyib, and what are permissible, halal. And these 2 words are joined together. You can't have one without the other when it comes to consuming, kulu. So when you see the word kulu, you always see halal and tayyiban together. So it's a lawfully permissible, wholesomely good things that we have to eat or consume. I use the word consume because it is more wide coverage. It covers eat, drink, ingest, and even buying of goods and services. So halal and tayyiban is F&B and beyond. In this ayat also, Allah has stated about sustenance, which means making people strong and healthy. That's what I mentioned earlier about Maqasid Sharia, which you preserve life, but most importantly, you preserve faith first, to preserve life, intellect, progeny, and property. And I think with this COVID-19 situation, you know that property and livelihood are very relevant to one another. So now let's go into halal certification quickly. The base of halal determination of halal and tayyiban status as done by Jakim is subject, source, and process through consideration from its source of origin up to where it reaches the consumer. And at this juncture, I would like to pause and ask, are the sources of materials halal and tayyiban? And is there a risk of any halal threats? Risk of contamination, cross-contamination, mix-up, adulteration throughout this whole chain. A simple case study. Subject, processed water, the bottled water. People always ask Malaysia, some laugh at why Malaysia certified halal processed water, because it's from Allah's creation. Therefore, it should be halal, right? But have you considered, are they approved by MOH? Are they safe? Ministry of Health, right? Are they safe to be consumed? Are they approved by water authority, local authority? That means have you legally acquired those water for your to bottle? That's a tayyiban concept. And in the process side, there's a stage where filters can also be made from non-halal materials. So the question is, can you see where a halal certification is important? In halal certification, Allah has already given guide as to what are the prohibited animals, what are the halal critical concerns, also directly related in the Quran and further elaborated by scientists and food techs and pharmacists all over the world, the Muslims that have now embraced halal into their work. So these are some of the items that has been identified, but I'd like to concentrate on alcohol. Because there's always a misconception about what alcohol is. As you see during this COVID-19, I guess some of you, or most of you would have read about people drinking hand sanitizer thinking it's alcohol. But there is a difference between alcohol and the intoxicants that Allah has prohibited Muslims from drinking, right? The intoxicants are called hamar, and the ones that we can consume or can be used into the halal productions are the industrial alcohol. So the common terminology in halal, as mentioned earlier, halal and Taliban. There's also harus or mubah, which is acceptable once there's a fatwa or edict issued by the competent authorities. So in the case of COVID-19, there's a lot of fatwa being issued out by scholars all over the world about how you must take the COVID-19 vaccine because you have to preserve life first, and not only your life, but the life of your community, right? There's haram, of course, the prohibited, unlawful. There's also shubha, the doubtful ones. And there's najis, the unclean categories under the Sharia, which can be severe, light, or medium, depending on the different methods of cleaning. This is a differentiation between halal and kosher, which I have studied from the Ivanka pages. One main thing that kosher, allows is drinking of alcohol and wines, which are produced according to kosher. And the gelatin is only considered permitted regardless of its source of origin. So these two are the things that you must be cautious of when you go overseas, Malaysians especially going overseas. If there is halal, there is kosher, you must go for halal certified ones, because kosher, there is still this concern about alcohol and the use of gelatin. And definitely not pronouncing the word of Allah when you slaughter. So you can see again why halal certification is important, but because who will affirm these concerns that I shared with you earlier, that they are properly addressed? Who would you trust to make such affirmation? The manufacturer, third party, or competent and endorsed third party? Within the MABIMs, that means the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, the religious minister of them has tried to harmonize the halal standards within this region. And humankind is always argumentative. So what happens also in the international arena is that the OIC has agreed to have SMIC, the Standards and Meteorological Institutes of Islamic country, since August 2010, to try and harmonize, bring to come some agreement, a consensus about the different standards approach to halal certification. So let's now quickly go through the Halal Malaysia scheme. One of the bases of halal certification scheme in Malaysia is that it considers the stakeholders and the ecosystem, which goes finally with this second part of the Al-Ma'idah about the duty. Because with this statement, Allah has said, be careful, you must perform your duty as a stakeholder within the ecosystem with utmost integrity, with excellence and sustainability. Consistency is utmost important. So in Malaysia, there's a law, but not Halal Act, about halal is stated in the Trade Description Act Order 2011, which take effect in 2012, that talk about who are the competent authorities, specified the logo, and who are the foreign halal certification bodies. Right? In Malaysia, the first halal letter was issued in 1965 by the Selangor state. So you can see in Malaysia, there's the federal government, there's a state level government. So for the federal government, the first halal letter was issued in 1974. This specified halal logo is unified across the country since 2012 with the implementation of this act. And there are countries that has and CBs that has been approved by JAKIM as a recognized body, and there are 46 countries with 84 CBs as at last year, December 1st, 2020. So wait, hang on a second. So the first halal standard was issued in year 2000, the halal food, right? This was issued by Standards Malaysia, which was established under the minister's approval under Act 549. And all the halal standards must be approved by minister after it has been issued to stakeholders, professionals, and consensus-based approach of developing these standards. So the first was in year 2000, and the latest one is the halal medical devices issued in 2019. And this halal food and the Islamic and halal principles, definitions, and interpretations on terminology has been considered as the normative reference for all these 11 halal standards. Yeah, these 11 halal standards are being used in the Halal Malaysia Halal Certification Scheme, and all this has been last revised in 2019, and in the pipeline is the medical halal standards for professionals. This is the Halal Certification Scheme in Malaysia, taking into effect from this year, 9 schemes, which includes the medical devices. There are 344 entities in Malaysia that is involved in halal certification. And you can see that the recent halal meat importation scandal, how these various entities are playing a big role in ensuring that importations are genuine. So this forms part of the halal built-in, not tested for concept that we have introduced into the Halal Malaysian standard. It was first mooted out by Prof. Zari Ismail, and now it's inside the Halal Malaysia Standards Revision 2019 in MS 1500, 2424, 2634, and 2626. This is cosmetic and this is medical devices. So what is halal built-in is that the the certification body has its own set of procedures, and the halal certification holders also have its own sets of procedures that covers from beginning until the end of the processes. Not only that, the approval from relevant authorities are also in part and parcel of halal built-in, and this is the document reference that is compulsory in Halal Malaysia certification. Of course, the halal certification bodies plays a part, the recognized one. There's a public comment ongoing now until 15 March. Please do participate in it on how the foreign bodies are being recognized. So there's also technical references from other areas, such as from pharmaceutical, from medical devices, and from food tech and all that. And there's technological aspects, and I believe Dr. Iskandar later will talk about it. In the latest halal certification scheme, there's a procedure that requires Islamic finance. So let's listen to our two Mr. Rezals later about Islamic financing. All these are to ensure that Halal Malaysia is of integrity, excellence, and sustainable. So therefore, halal certificate products are not only benefiting Muslim, but benefit everyone, right? Because of the Toyiban concepts is there. Toyiban is this from the certification, ISO, GMP, HACCP, right? So halal, if you are wanting continuous improvement, is a value add to your whole processes. Now, isn't this ayat complete? And now you can understand why I love this ayat. Is the whole ecosystem that Allah talks about in this particular ayat. Not only the whole ecosystem, but how you must uphold integrity, excellence, and sustainability. So now let's go through the challenges and risk and also sustainability. So the most important challenge is this halal awareness by stakeholders. There's diverse view on the need of halal certification by the various stakeholders, the consumers, the halal industry, and also the influencers. The influencers, I think, the Islamic scholars, the government, the academia, the scientists and researchers, and even though it's also inclusive of the media practitioners, they have diverse views on the needs of halal cert. They have a diverse understanding of the halal concept itself. You know, the recent meat fiasco in halal Malaysia shows, you know, how diverse those awareness are, you know, being captured by all these stakeholders. So I do hope that later Prof. Wilson would give us some insight on how to tackle this challenge. We also have varied halal certification methodology, you know, as mentioned earlier. Hopefully Smes can help to cover that, address and minimize that differing approaches. Definitely there's lack of knowledgeable and experienced personnel because halal is new, especially halal pharmaceuticals and halal medical devices. Resistance to change. All industry face that. Then there's halal compliant, halal certified material, the availability, the integrity of its value chain, the sustainability of supply, and its cost. And you know, with the COVID-19 disease, with the movement lockdown, that limits the cargo movement and also the auditing of halal, you know, these are challenges that we have to face. And hopefully, Prof. Marco, you can have give us some insight on how to tackle some of these issues, yeah, Prof? And of course, definitely, the viral and fake news is a big challenge. So what are the halal risks that we can see? Well, I mentioned earlier are the risks of halal and toyiban of the sources. What about the threats, contamination, cross-contamination, mix-up and adulteration in reaching to the consumer? In Malaysian standards, it's a management responsibility that the halal integrity is preserved, you know, and therefore in the management halal system, the latest revision for taking effect this year, the micro industry are required to have a risk control, and for the medium and large company, you have to do risk and raw materials control. For the small and micro, is either you have control of the raw material or you have the risk control. But for the large and medium size, you need to cover both. This is a sample of how you can manage risk. In the Malaysian standards for Sharia-based quality management, risk-based thinking concept is being introduced into this. You're going to be distribute new revised MS 1900. And I understand that Smes is doing the halal quality management system, and I hope that the risk is also included there. It's come to sustainability, as mentioned earlier, Allah has already asked us to sustain according to Maqasid Sharia. And this ties well with the sustainability concept that we know in the conventional world. So in also in the MS 1900, there's also introduction of linking of sustainability goal and the Maqasid Sharia. And I hope also that the SMIC OIC standards will incorporate that. So let's go to communicating halal. Training. When you talk about communication, people think about training first. And it's there in the Malaysian standard, a management responsibility that you should provide training regularly to staff and personnel on the principles of its application. In the recent implemented manual procedure of the domestic Halal Certification, there's articulation of what the training should comprise of. But I would like us to consider further the training or the communicating of halal to the stakeholders, because they have different knowledge level, and therefore, even though training is key, but the training must suit with the knowledge level of each stakeholder, and it should combine with other approaches, posters, periodic activities, and also utilizing and optimizing the social media. You know, people are using social media for negative, let's use them for the positive aspects too. So why is it important in communicating halal? We need to communicate that halal consumption is an obligation to the Muslim. It's Allah's decree to us. Please respect that. It's our obligation. But it benefits everyone. So please see that aspect of halal, because especially when it's authenticated by third party of a credible halal certifying bodies, everybody can have a peace of mind because it covers from source of origin up to it reaching the consumer. So with communicating halal, you can hopefully it can resolve and mitigate the challenges, which at the moment now seems slow, and you know, with the COVID-19, it just drag on further. So we need to have good and strong collaboration, because together everyone can achieve more. But most importantly, we must ensure that every single link in the chain that we make, be it internally within our halal industry and externally covering the influencers and the consumer, they are perfectly calculated, they are perfectly converged of technical, business, sharia and science within the ecosystem, because that's what Allah wants us to do, right? So let's move towards excellence in pursuit of His pleasure. Thank you very much for your attention. Alhamdulillah, I managed to complete it within time. So if there's any further questions, please do reach out to me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Puan Rosie, for a very enlightening session, right from the basics of halal, from the definition of the word, right up to the risks, the challenges, and latest trends in the halal industry. And you stuck very closely to your time limit. So thank you very much for that. On that point, let us move on to the topic of SMEs and how to be future ready to capture the potential opportunities in the halal industry. This will be the focal point of discussion of our next speaker, Jerezal Muhammad Yusuf, the head of SME business at Bank Islam. Jerezal Muhammad Yusuf has more than 20 years of experience in the SME business and presently helms the development and implementation of strategies, including digital strategies that drive SME banking for Bank Islam. Let us all welcome Jerezal Muhammad Yusuf to deliver his session titled Future Ready SME Business. Jerezal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Encik Said Awi, for the introduction. Let me just share the slide first. Yes, can everyone see the slide? So basically today I would like to share with you some of the important points, especially in terms of being future ready, being future proof, most importantly, the SMEs who are ready to embark into this new or blue ocean, so to speak, in terms of seizing the market, looking into the digital markets rather than the conventional brick and mortar. Now, the focus today is on Halalpreneur webinar, but I'll be sharing on the financial literacy from the banking point of view, financial discipline, future-ready SMEs, digital presence, the business, typical business growth cycle, and various SME programs that a typical bank would have to offer to this bankable and also underserved customers within the SME space. Now, basically, we would like to know what is financial literacy. People have been talking about capital knowledge, financial knowledge, but we are emphasizing today on financial literacy, specifically for SMEs in the market. Now, developing financial literacy to improve on the businesses, personal finances involves learning and a variety of skills to budgeting and managing and paying off debts, and it determines the livelihood, the cash flow of the company. So we are looking at 9 aspects of financial literacy within the livelihood of a company, of a business, typically SMEs, where you don't really have financial managers or financial controllers, unlike the big boys, unlike the corporate establishment. Now we're looking at creating a budget. So each SME will have to look into their budget, will have to look into what are the things that they would like to spend on, invest on, or probably the business and cash flow of the business, because cash flow, cash coming in and cash coming out, that is actually the blood of the business, the sustainability of the business. So when I say that profits is nice, profit is good, profit can be reflected in your financials, but profit can also be accrued, so that you don't actually realize profit when you have collected your receivables. So cash flow is very important, and it determines the sustainability of your business when you have cash flows coming into your current account and savings account for you to do your reinvestment and purchase of your supplies and selling of your products. Investment in takaful, the second one, is equally important, or some might say insurance. So in Islamic context, we say takaful. So this is a protection for the SMEs should any untoward incident happens to the owner, to the sole proprietor, to the directors, or even to the business in case of fire and whatnot. So having this takaful would be able to protect the business if there is any unforeseen circumstances. So it is not just on the personal basis, but it is also on the company basis. Now, investing in business future is also important, looking at capital expenditure, property acquisition for the business, something that would be able to yield income for the business is also important for you to have in mind when investing, when putting your money into the business. So because we have to ensure that all the places, all the property, all the tools that we are investing are actually would be able to yield income for the business. So this is very important when it comes to investing for your business. Credit report and check credit score. So this fourth and fifth item is important, and it's related, so much related between the two of them. It is important for the SMEs to look into their credit report. to ensure that their credit report is at check and positively reflected. And they have to check their credit score time and again to ensure that their credit standing is as positive as possible in order for them to make it life easier for them to get credit, and for the bankers to assess them to get more financial support from the financial institution and even from the venture capitalists if you have a good business proposition and whatnot. Now, the sixth one will be keep documents and accounts in order. As we all know, some SMEs, especially the sole proprietor, the smaller SMEs, the micro SMEs, they don't really keep records. All the receipts, all the invoices are being kept in the shoebox sometimes, but not all. But now we have to seriously looking into all our documents to be at check in place by our accounts department, by accounts manager, by even our finance manager to ensure that everything is being recorded, everything is being reflected as per the company's performance. So this again is equally important because it shows the historical performance of the company and how you would be able to foresee in the future the company would fare. The seventh one is managing debts. Now, managing debts is very important, especially when you're looking into creditors, your bankers, and you have to ensure that all your debts are at check and in place. Now, managing debt in the sense that getting the right financing tool, servicing your repayment as and when it falls due, because this, again, when you manage it properly, it will be reflected to your financial report, to your credit scoring. So once it is positively reflected in your credit scoring, then you can see that the credits, the financial support will start to flow in to your business. The eighth one is managing cash flow. So this is what I've mentioned before is very important towards sustainability of the business. So we have seen a couple of cases where the companies reflected high profitability, but they just couldn't collect their receivable. Like I said, profit is accrued. So if you can't collect, let's say your buyers requires a credit term which is way too long. There are credit terms that goes up to 200 days or even 300 days. Then we have to assess from the aging list, creditors aging list, or debtors aging list whether it is collectible or not. So that is equally important to look into who are your buyers and also the people that are selling to you for supply in order for you to match the credit terms and how we can see that these two will match and support each other. The ninth item is managing the bill payment and expenses. So managing expenses is the key in doing business, especially for SMEs. I'm going to discuss more on managing the bigger expenses, looking at the bigger costs rather than the smaller costs. Now, all in all, financial literacy is actually sums up on the financial discipline, which I will be discussing later on. All these 9 items will sum up to having a good financial discipline by the SMEs. Let's move on to financial discipline by the SMEs. Now, there are few aspects that we can look at in terms of financial discipline for the SMEs. Now, the first one is to ensure strong fundamentals. We deliver a great product or services, creating a strong sales funnel, giving your business the option of what accounts it accepts, sell on favorable terms, and monitor on the cost closely. So, as what I have mentioned before, it's an end-to-end process when there is a lead time from your supply, fabrication, selling of goods, and collection. And that those supply chain needs to be monitored closely by the business, especially by the business owner themselves when it comes to SMEs. And that is why we have to look at our credit terms that we are giving to our buyers and debtors aging when you look at credit and debtors aging list when it comes to supply and buying of your products. So the second point here is don't buy turnover by using your balance sheet. Now, credit is the grease that makes the wheels of a business go round. So it's money flowing in and out. Now, however, compromising on payment terms to win deal is not a sustainable strategy. Sometimes when your buyers say, I would be able to buy in bulk, I would be able to buy more, but you have to give me a credit term of 200 days or 180 days. So meaning to say you can't collect on your receivable for 180 or 200 days. That will disrupt the cash flow of your company. Yeah. So we have to balance between a shorter credit term and a longer credit term in order for us to be able to sustain our cash flow position and be able to manage our cash flow, and at the end of the day, being able to sustain in the business that you are currently in. The third one will be managing the predictability. Now, long-term contracts comes with low margins, while high-risk success-based revenues comes with healthy margin. Now, a successful business must find the perfect balance between this trade-off. As people are saying, high risk, high yield. Low risk will go to lower yield. But that is just the law of the natural law of business. High risk, high yield, and low risk, lower yield. But the thing is, you have to balance between these risks. We're not putting everything in one basket. We're not having a concentrated risk for just one of our huge buyers. So what happens if the person stops buying? So we have to separate all the risks between these terms, these contracts that we have, so that we will not have a concentration risk of a particular buyer. The next one is measuring performance constantly and objectively. Now, a good business will have the track records against forecasts, and analysis on the variances, and make changes as and when it requires. Now, this creates an early warning system to track slippage, leakages, and take immediate corrective action for us to be sustainable, especially for the SMEs. So if you are able to forecast what will happen, or you are in tune with the current economic condition, the current market, what the customer needs, what the customer wants, then you would be able to maneuver on in terms of serving your customer, serving the SME customers, because customers are very volatile. They have different needs altogether, and their needs are getting increasingly sophisticated, and they have a need for digital channel, or besides having the conventional channel. All right, the next one will be watching the big costs and not the small ones. Like I mentioned before, it is common to see small costs get all the attention, yeah, because it's an easy meat, while the big expenses are treated as holy cows that cannot be touched. Now, controlling the small costs is good, yeah, it's achievable, it's quick wins, but we have to look into the bigger costs, managing our bigger costs, because that will create an impact to the business. So all in all, when you look at all these five aspects of financial discipline, time and again, I would say that monitoring your cash flow, taking care of your creditors, taking care of your suppliers, and the livelihood of your whole ecosystem within the business is very important. And financial disciplines will equate to better credit standing, which at the end of the day, with a better credit standing, you will get a lot of support from the banks, from the businesses, other business, your suppliers, people would like to do more business with you because you're trustworthy, and you would be able to obtain the government assistance in an environment or in a market like Malaysia. So let's look at future-ready SMEs and how to become a future-ready business in the context of being digital. So what is a future-ready business? Let me just read it to you. It is when we are confident and well prepared for emerging challenges, there are 6 common characteristics of a future-ready business that have positive attitude towards change. They are open-minded, open to technology, have clear steps towards business transformation, and having a detailed strategy and on how they want to go about tackling the potential of the digital space. They are always up to date with the trends. They are in tune with the requirement and also the demand of the current demand of the market. Now, the first one will be adapting to the times, the power and influence of customers to grow, and the ability to sway the behavior of organization that has grown significantly. Now you look at business that have diversified into the brick and mortar conventional space and also the digital space, and how they have fared so far, and as opposed to business who are just looking at their conventional channels, and slowly this business will be phased out. Or the key is we would not be able to see the sustainability given that they have missed out in terms of the digital space. Now, again, sustainability is the key. It has been creeping up the business agenda for some years now as the public have become more aware, more vocal about it, and the regulation has also increased. Now, if you look at a banking business, for example, it is highly regulated. Yeah, even if you look at the gig economy, the government have started to put some hands in it in terms of regulating it to ensure that it is sustainable, the consumer rights are protected, yeah, and the business is there to run and being sustainable and to be there in many years to come. Now, the third one, which I would like to elaborate more, is a data-centric outlook. Now, data is creating a further set of challenges too. Not only that it's becoming an increasingly important strategic asset, but it's vital to store and process it securely. I would like to elaborate more in terms of what data and having a big data analytics becomes more important, especially for the businesses. But before we even start, let's look at the capacity and the ability of the SMEs to do big data analytics. More often than not, SMEs do not have the capacity or do not have the economies of scale to do data analytics or having that database to do that big data analytics. Then the question is, how are we going to go about it? How do we tackle and tap into these enablers, given that most of the SMEs, be it micro, small, or even medium, who do not have this platform? Yeah, the answer is simple. We tap into the third-party enablers. Now, the simplest example that I can share with you is Facebook marketing. I am not promoting Facebook, but Facebook will be the simplest example that people would be able to relate to. Now, let's take, for example, the marketing. If you want to advertise your product, what we have been doing and what we have been seeing is that you advertise the product through the conventional channels, the media, newspapers. But do we know what is the effectiveness of your ads? does it go to the intended recipient? I mean, to your target market, to the target audience. So that is a big question, because it's a mass communication throughout the community or the country at large. Now, but if you look at, for example, the Facebook marketing, you would be able to leverage on the database that they have, the potential that they have, the algorithm, the what do you call that? The targeted marketing approach, the predictive marketing. So they would be able to formulate their algorithm altogether to see, are these are the customers who would be more than often to purchase your product because of their inclination on the website they browse. These are the set of customers that would have the potential to buy or to be interested in your products. So through that type of marketing, a targeted approach, you would be able to reach out to all these customers that have high propensity to buy your product. And it's not just everybody on the street. So as you all know, handphone or the smartphone is the most handheld device. Yeah, the internet penetration is high. We take, for example, the Malaysian market is about 93, and at 98% penetration in terms of the smartphone, if not 100% for some countries. So this channel is very important, and it's no longer the conventional newspaper channels, because this is a target approach. You would be able to use the algorithm like what the Facebook is having. You would be able to do a targeted marketing, a predictive approach where your customer is concerned. So that is one of the data-centric outlook that SME, that would enable the SMEs to look into leveraging the existing platform that you have. Apart from the e-marketplace, e-commerce that you have, like in the context of Malaysia will be the Lazada and Shopee, but maybe eBay, the eBay is widely known, will be also a good platform for people to sell. That is just one of the examples. Now, next one will be nurturing talent, creating digital workplace that appeal to younger workers, and that makes it easier for all kinds of employees to work more flexibly with a focus on their well-being at all times. So Gen Y and Gen Z, Gen Y particularly, they are very much inclined to have all this digital workplace, working from home and whatnot. Right. Becoming future ready will be the next point that I would like to discuss here. Now, as we all know, COVID-19 has given us time to reflect and realize that work can be done anywhere, from anywhere, through digital means. If you look at, I will just share with you, the time and again, as what I have been saying, even in my other forums, the biggest enabler, the biggest push in terms of IT or IT capability is not really the chief technology officer or the head of IT. It is actually COVID-19, because it forces us to be working digitally, to be working from home, and like us now having this webinar, the digital webinar, Halalpreneurship webinar through digital means. Under normal circumstances, we will be having this forum in a big hall, but everybody can work at the comfort of their own home, and we can also have this webinar remotely, where we have a global outreach, and we have audience, people like coming in from US, from the UK, from Malaysia, and from all over the world, and that has made it possible through the digital means. So what is digital presence and why every business needs it? Now, digital presence, by having a digital presence, you are not limited to the number of people. Like I mentioned, it has that global outreach if you choose to. So like Facebook, Instagram, and all other social medias have that massive outreach. as compared to the local newspaper or just traditional marketing. So we need to rethink of how we want to reach out to our customers, especially for the SMEs. And I have seen far too many that businesses that is not having the conventional channel, not having the brick and mortar, but just having a warehouse, thrive and succeeded in doing their business. In fact, they have grown quadruple or have experienced tremendous growth in their business through online. So we as a bank, we have changed our view in terms of how we see it, how we assess the customer. Last time, during the good old days, if you don't have a premise, it's difficult for us to assess, or we don't even have the appetite to actually support the business. But it's a different game altogether. Just like just sharing with all of you, some banks, they're not just looking at having the premises and whatnot, having through the traditional marketing. They are also looking at how much Instagram followers that you have when doing the assessment, how much Facebook followers, how the business have thrive within the e-community at large. So that is one of the determinant when we look at the supporting the business financially for now. So the landscape have changed altogether on how we assess the business, and this is evident from our current practice nowadays. Now, establishing a brand building digitally builds trust, potential customers' trust for businesses, and that your business need to catch the eyes of the customers. Again, this boils down to reaching out to more people. As I have mentioned, that's about 98% smartphone penetration within this country, or if not more for other countries. So everybody is carrying the smartphone. It's one of the most handheld device, touch device, or you carry the phone everywhere altogether. So it is important that your presence in the digital space is recognized. Besides that, in terms of digital presence, you make it easier to build a relationship with customers that allows the business to communicate with the target audience and create a meaningful relationship. So you have seen more often than not, the business community are there presently within the social media, within the digital space, and customers are flocking into their pages just to inquire about the product or even buy their products. Now, being digital can help your customers easily to access your product or services. I think this is more or less all these 4 items are correlated among each other.
Jerezal, maybe another final 3 minutes to wrap up.
Yes. Okay, I will not dwell too much on the business cycle as this is more so academic, but let's just look at the available support that banking might have, typical bank might have in terms of financing, in terms of deposit, in terms of a lot of packages that will be able to help the SMEs. Now, let me just share the success story. From the humble beginning of this nasi Arab, or what do you call that, Arabian cuisine, Middle Eastern cuisine, this Haji Rahim have started their business, and now suddenly there's COVID-19. The business, I wouldn't say that business have closed down. The dining in have been limited, and it forces them to look into other ways in doing their business. So what they will, there is support coming in from the bank to look into managing the cash flow in terms of financing, and also they have rethink the position in a way that they're looking into gig economy, looking into being online, being in the e-marketplace or ecosystem. So the business have thrived in such a way that their products, which is food, have been delivered everywhere through Grab Food, to Panda Food, through the gig economy, and even they have already partnered another nasi kandar online that can have deliveries to everywhere, even throughout the country. And this is where they are right now. They have opened few stores, and they have been able to overcome the challenges of COVID. All right, this is the end of my session. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I'm glad that I could share a few things, a few pointers for the good of our SMEs and our halal SMEs in particular. Over to you, Cik Said.
Thank you, Jerezal, for a very interesting session. And my apologies, we couldn't have more time to go through all your slides. I'm very sure it's very relevant and pertinent for the SMEs. But you touched upon a very important point on what SMEs need to do to be ready to capture the opportunities in the halal industry. So thank you. To the participants who have any questions, please feel free to post your questions through the Q&A or even the chat function. For now, because we will, in the interest of time, we will cover the questions at a later part after all the speakers have completed their sessions. For our next session, ladies and gentlemen, we have another banker who also has the same first name as Jerezal from Islam. So we have, for our next session, Jerezal Al-Essan, the Chief Executive Officer of Alliance Islamic Bank Malaysia. And Jerezal Al-Essan has more than 25 years of experience in financial services and is responsible for driving the bank's mission, or Alliance Bank's mission, to be the preferred ESG bank amongst its business clients. And one of the trailblazing financial solutions that Alliance Bank has developed for the halal industry is the Halal in One program. So now, without further ado, let us welcome Jerezal Al-Essan to talk about the topic, reimagining the bank's roles in the halal economy. Jerezal, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tuan Syed, for the kind introduction. Assalamualaikum, and a very good morning to participants as well as the panelists. Thank you so much for the organizers for including us in this webinar today. I think this topic continues to be a germane one, given the zeitgeist of what's happening in our business and economy. Particularly, is particularly relevant for SMEs as well. Clearly, it's an honor to be part of this esteemed panel of experts. My view is probably less of an expert's point of view, but more of a practitioner, and it's an incidental perspective born out of the fact that we wanted to help some of our clients actually grow their business. At risk of sounding pretentious, I mean, the title of my presentation this morning is Reimagining the Role of Banks in the Halal Economy. I think Jerezal of SME Bank has explained quite extensively in terms of what banks are doing currently in order to assist business owners, small business owners, medium-sized business owners to succeed. What the treatise I'm trying to present today is that the market and the needs of our clients have evolved such that perhaps it is time for us to have a rethink and reflect in terms of what else banks can do in order to play a more meaningful role in the growth of not just SMEs, but the larger halal economy. So I'll be sharing some slides, not including some of the place markers. It's probably about 14 slides. I'll try to get through some of the main points as we go along. We're able to see the slides, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to start off with some contextual stuff. One is, I think it's been bandied about in terms of the opportunities in the halal market. Tuan Syed mentioned earlier about globally how the market size extends between 7 trillion to 30 trillion. Yeah, we've seen several statistics around this as well. Domestically, you're looking at one estimate being about a 150 billion market size by the end of this decade. And it contributes about slightly over 7% of our GDP and is expected to double that by the end of the decade as well. And as part of the Halal Industrial Master Plan, there is a focus to actually have Malaysia become a center of excellence for halal and to actually export our goods and services beyond our borders. But if you compare that with, say, our SME segment and what I term as being halal eligible base, these are businesses or sectors that would be eligible for halal certification to be recognized as halal. Out of over 900,000 business establishments in Malaysia, a majority of that is predominantly SMEs. And out of that, you find that around 20% or slightly more than 20% are SMEs that are operating in the halal ecosystem. But the sad state of affairs currently, despite the opportunities and despite the number of establishments which are halal eligible, you do find that the penetration rate for halal certification is still on the very low end. I understand that these two statements might be contradictory, but it tells the same story. One is that it says 9 out of 10 SMEs who are eligible for halal do not have halal certification. Out of 200,000 eligible SMEs, which I mentioned earlier, only about 7,000 SMEs are halal certified. And so what's created this state of affairs? Because it seems like there's an opportunity that isn't being tapped by the folks who stand to benefit most from these opportunities. If we look into some of the factors, and this is by no means meant to be exhaustive nor comprehensive, but it's based on our own research. One is you see some issues at the level of the SMEs themselves. So there's an issue around appetite and readiness. We do find that the majority of halal eligible SMEs tend to be in the early stage of the evolution. And folks in the early stages tend to be much more concerned with bread and butter issues, where the next business deal is going to come from, where the next revenue is going to come from. So it's mainly about business viability and survivability. Most of the small businesses you speak to are more content to actually work on the market that's captive within where their geographic location is, and maybe do not have the ambition to go beyond that. Second part is many of them are not ready for certification. Clearly, going through the certification process, the requirements are quite extensive. There, you need to have the right production infrastructure in place, management processes, financial records. For those who already have like HACCP or GMP, this is not going to be a problem. But those in the early stages of the business life cycle tend to not have these things. So, for example, we've seen small food manufacturers, food producers, produce their food products within the kitchen in which they cook for their own families. Or we see them actually having their production facilities next to where they keep their livestock, or near to where bathrooms or areas which are considered unsanitary are as well. So based on that, you find that many of them will require a lot of investments before they can actually really go on that journey towards getting certification. And because of that, you find that many of them do not want to embark on this because of the cost that's related to prepare themselves for certification. They need to create a new separate manufacturing facility, production facility. They need to invest in construction, invest in capex for new machinery, that kind of thing. And coupled with the fact that being an early stage venture, your access to funding may be quite constrained. So because of that, you might have an issue at the SME level. At the industry level, and beyond the SME, you find that there's a lot of support for halals. I mean, whether it's from a public sector initiative or private sector, it's varied. The information is also there. The issue here right now is that it's dispersed, it's sporadic. And the guidance towards where to search for this information may not necessarily be so available to your ordinary SME or business owner. And because of that, it creates asymmetries. So the asymmetry in information creates agency risk. This asymmetry creates the need to have consultants, for example, to come into the picture to advise SMEs, okay, these are the steps you need to take for certification. These are the business opportunities in the halal sector, and so on and so forth. But with agency, there comes risks. We've heard, for example, several years ago with regard to some unscrupulous consultants scamming some SMEs, saying that they can get certification through them, and then eventually many years pass, and then they do not see the light of day with regard to their certification. We've had one incident with a client we spoke to. They paid up to like 50,000 for a consultant. 3 years on, they still have not seen any certification that's come to the fore. So all this actually creates unnecessary negative goodwill for halal, when in actual fact, what halal is meant to create is a lot of good. Finally, in terms of credit and investment models, let's be honest about this. Halal is still not really part of the credit criteria or investment criteria when it comes to these kind of financial decisions. So for me, you add this all up, it kind of creates a situation where there's disconnects on both the demand and supply side, which may impede a higher level of penetration amongst SMEs. Now, not to say that there have not been support. I mean, clearly there have been structured, concentrated, organized effort towards promoting much more penetration or participation in the halal space by SMEs. You've seen tax incentives for halal parks. You've seen capacity building and infrastructure initiatives done by several agencies, HDC, HIP, which is an initiative under HDC, the Halal Integrated Platform, which is meant to create a community of halal producers, halal businesses. There's MDEC that's come up with a halal fund to help halal SMEs digitize. Financing incentives by banks, development banks like SME Bank, Agro Bank, as well as other agencies like MTDC and Taraju are there. There are efforts to create market access for SMEs to access, whether it be on a local basis or an international basis. But I guess at the macro level, while that's there might be opportunities still to organize support at a micro level. I mean, this is at the SME firm level. And if I overlay the role of IFIs or Islamic banks in this space, I'll explain in this slide, some of the key challenges that SMEs face and what are the opportunities for IFIs beyond what we've traditionally been doing in order to help these SMEs address the challenges that they have. So number one is, as I mentioned, insufficient access to financing support, because a large majority of the folks who are halal eligible tend to be in the early stage. So they're pre-bankable. They lack the supporting documents. There is no really suitable financing program traditionally right now run by banks. What we have as banks is high-priced personal financing. Some banks have introduced startup financing, but it's not as prevalent as it should be. An opportunity for IFIs right now is to look at whether we can develop alternative financing models, whether in-house or in partnership with another party, that will help provide funding access for some of these pre-bankables. Second is around depth of understanding of halal opportunities. There tends to be a lack of resource for halal market intelligence and the ability to develop comprehensive halal marketing strategies at the firm level. This is not something we provide support for at bank level right now, but it's something that perhaps we can try to weave into some kind of a mentoring or awareness program to help some of our SME customers. At the general business level, having management systems, accounting systems, payroll, HR, other business management systems, lack of digital presence, lack of network to make business. What we do right now is provide a lot of cash management, payroll accounts, simple marketing platforms. But there's a bigger opportunity here in a bank becoming the nexus around a business support ecosystem that can provide a lot of value for SMEs. On the market access side, we've heard this before, lack of market access absence of certification exacerbating their ability to compete with larger multinationals or larger corporations. The opportunity is to bring together or curate the kind of support that may allow these SMEs to access a wider market than what they're having right now. So just to give a flavor as to how this could look like, we embarked on a Halal in One program several years ago. And it's born, as I mentioned earlier, out of the fact that we've spoken to some of our customers and we realized that the penetration rate amongst these customers in the halal space tends to be very low, despite the fact that there's opportunities. So the Halal in One program came about because we felt we needed to address that issue. And what is Halal in One? It's a complete halal business support program designed to help SMEs succeed in the halal market. And what we do is we curate different types of solutions into one platform that hopefully will be useful for the SMEs to navigate themselves into the halal market. So this includes Halal Certification advisory, access to markets, digitization, as well as providing halal financing and other banking support. There's a specific target. There's about 7 sectors that we target. And we feel that this is a program that benefits both the bank as well as the SMEs, although we focus much more on the SMEs. But for the bank, if there's a value proposition for the bank, it's about really making the relationship with that customer much more sticky by providing a relationship that goes beyond just purely the financial solutions. And this is born also out of the fact that several years ago, we realized that the role of financial institutions need to shift. And the focus now should be about providing assistance beyond financing to support and contribute towards economic inclusivity within the nation, and to promote and help businesses that create good. And so what we do is we promote the businesses which are creating this good for both the society and environment, and to create a community of social purpose organizations. Yeah. So Halal in One is one of those initiatives that we came up with. Another one is about mobilizing social funds to help both pre-bankable businesses get seed funding, and also for social enterprises to get seed funding as well. But we'll go into Halal in One only today. So some of the key value propositions that we have is about creating transparency around the key solutions for SMEs to succeed in the halal market. We provide halal certification support, and this includes advisory certification, services for certification. This includes on-site visitations, pre-audits, halal readiness gap analysis, and also free halal awareness training for customers. We have defined turnaround times for this, which we subject our partners to, and we have transparency in terms of what the costing for each of the services are. For business matching, we provide services for retail listings at e-marketplaces, product listings as well at physical stores, and we have several international halal export programs with some partners as well. Clearly, our bread and butter is halal financing and banking products. What we do is we try to curate and design financing programs for this particular space. Increasingly, as Jerezal mentioned earlier, how more SMEs are going into the digitalization space. I think we hear that about 3% of SMEs, there's an additional 3% of SMEs who went digital between March and October last year. That represents about 300,000 over. We feel that, I think, moving forward, one of the things that we can need to prepare our halal SMEs for is that whole digital play. And so the additional support that we provide is how do we create that digital online presence? How do we help them get access to some of the e-marketplaces that's already established for them to expand their business? So as I mentioned, this was something that we embarked in several years ago. It started off with just trying to understand the needs of the customers, and then bringing together subject matter experts, folks from JAKIM, folks from various parties, to basically explain the whole halal opportunity plus how to tap on them. And as the community grew, we kind of started evolving our propositions according to what our community needed. So it led to, for example, adding on market access, adding on digitalization, and adding on different types of banking solutions as well. So the architecture is as such. So we have several partners. On the certification side, we work with HQC Commerce. Halnext is one that also provides the digitized version of certification advisory, allowing you to do online audits, allowing you to do online readiness assessments. We partner with several parties, Yapim, Halal Street, eJasmine, HQC as well, for our customers to access different markets. Halal Street, for example, provides B2B and B2C access for SMEs to tap into the UK market. And also we have a partner with FusionX coming in on board recently to help our customers digitalize. Additional support we provide as a group is we have platforms within the Lions Bank group that allows the opportunity for two things. One is to market their products to a wider audience. So we have an in-house marketing platform called Support Local. It's an e-marketplace of all our customers. And we also have an SME business partner portal where SMEs can access the various needs that require to run a business, accounting, payroll, HR, marketing support, digitalization, all within a community where we kind of help each other. And the services that we provide come at a discount as compared to if it were to be offered off the platform. So just a couple of case studies. One is, I just wanted to talk to you about one of our customers, Signature Market. They've already cleared us to use their name for this one. But the experience we had with them is, this is a manufacturer of snacks, healthy snacks. And they've been operating without the Halal certification, but they understood that by having the Halal certification, the opportunity to access a larger market was definitely there. They already had HACCP GMP in place, so their management systems, their processes were all there already. And that really helped a lot for them to actually get their Halal certification, because a lot of the requirements under Halal coincide with what's required under HACCP and GMP as well. So that really helped them actually get their Halal certification. We helped them go through that process. As they went through the process, we identified specific financing or banking solutions that they required, and we helped them along the way with that as well. Apart from that, because we're pretty proud of the fact that they were one of the early participants of Halal in One, we've been going on many marketing efforts or initiatives with them to promote their wares. Sorry, Tuan Syed, is my time running out?
No. You go ahead. You still have ample time.
Another case study is Tisha, also a food manufacturer. This one is different in the sense that they're already Halal certified. Despite the fact that they were already Halal certified, they found the Halal in One proposition useful, and we found we could help them to expand their market. So this was a case where we helped them expand into the UK market through our partner, Halal Street UK. And we're helping them establish a payment gateway for them to enable that as well. Right? So Halal in One is not just for customers who need to get certification, but basically any kind of assistance across the Halal value chain, we endeavor to try to provide some support for them. Now, as we move forward, clearly one of the things that need to be addressed is the pre-bankables. Because that seems to be a large part of our customer base, which we can't really address from a bank credit perspective. We do have a partner who can pick it up from an alternative financing standpoint, whether it's P2P crowdfunding, equity, or trade crowdfunding. But as we move forward, we're trying to think about how we can mobilize social funds to help some of these folks on the early stage of their business cycle. We want to extend our consultation and guidance to these pre-bankables and pre-Halal ready in both capacity building as well as market access and business matching services. And really what we want to do is just create a community here. So what we want is to build this community in such a way that it's not purely just about business for the bank, but it's about creating a support system that is self-sustainable, that it lives and breathes on its own, because it kind of provides value, collective value, to every participant within that community. So that's the long and short of it. We do have a website if you are more interested to find out more about this. And of course, you can get in touch with us via this email address if you want to find out much more. That's pretty much it from me. I hope that's been useful. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
No, thank you, Jerezal. It was a wonderful session. Thanks for walking through the halal in one solution for halal SMEs. And I think one of the most important key takeaways from the session is the ecosystem of support available for halal SMEs. And both Alliance Islamic Bank and also Bank Islam explain clearly the support system that is available for halal SMEs to capture the full potential of the halal opportunities available for them. And access to financing, access to credit is one of the key ingredients to enable these halal SMEs to grow further. And it's interesting how some of the bankers were able to explain what is available and what Malaysia or the financial services solutions in Malaysia is doing to achieve access to credit and to enable Malaysia to become a global halal hub for years to come, inshallah. So for those who just joined us, thank you for joining us today to the webinar on digital halalpreneurship, the halal food chapter. Please feel free to post any questions that you have through the Q&A function, and we will tackle those questions during the Q&A session later. For our next session, now we have heard from the bankers. We started off with the basics of 101 of halal. Then we heard from the bankers of what is available from the financial solutions point of view. And now for the next session, we have an expert in the area of supply chain management, Professor Dr. Marco Tiemann. Is the founder of LBB International, a consulting and research firm on supply chain strategy. Professor Marco is a specialist, a strategist in supply chain management, and he also recently authored a book titled Halal Business Management, a Guide to Achieving Halal Excellence. So without further ado, with great pleasure, let me invite Professor Marco Tiemann to deliver his session titled Halal Supply Chain Management. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Syed Alwi. It's a great honor to be here at iPortal at this webinar on the digital halalpreneur. Thank you for inviting me, iPortal, to this platform. It's a great honor to be here. These are challenging times. And our first speaker, Juan Rosie, already mentioned that the COVID crisis gives us a lot of challenges. So I hope you're all in good health. Stay strong in your faith, and hopefully this pandemic is over and we can hopefully go back to normal. Also, the SMEs are really going through challenging times. So it's important to see opportunities for SMEs in this period and to learn more, get more knowledge about halal. I also used last year to put my knowledge together in a book on halal business management, also to talk about various topics such as halal excellence. And that's an important foundation for entrepreneurs. I would like to share a few topics with you this morning. I will just put on my slides. So I would like to cover the topic of halal excellence, which is an important foundation of your halal business. In Malaysia, we had a horrible halal meat scandal the end of last year, which has shaken the trust of Malaysians in our food systems here in Malaysia. So I would like to spend some time on that. Thirdly, I would like to cover the importance of a halal supply chain. Why is that so important, and what you can do as an entrepreneur to establish an end-to-end halal supply chain. Finally, I will go a little bit deeper into the halal supply chain management concept to give you some better understanding what it is about and what you can do about it. Let's just focus on halal excellence. What is halal excellence exactly? I've written it in my book about it. The first chapter, I talk about the concept of halal excellence. In Islam, we talk about the concept ihsan, which is important in prayers, but also in your daily activities. And therefore, as entrepreneurs wanting to set up a halal business, it's important that halal excellence is an important foundation of your company and an important foundation of your supply chain, because halal requires a total approach, a process approach. And halal excellence is a continuous challenge, a pursuit of excellence. So the end goal of halal excellence is serving humanity with products, but also services that are lawful and good. So from the Holy Quran, we learn about food, that we have to eat products that are lawful and good. And halal excellence goes beyond food. It also goes to non-food, such as cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, but also services. We have the hotels. We have also food services, logistics, banks. We have also had speakers from banks, where also halal excellence is important. In my book, Halal Business Management, I describe important foundations of halal excellence, which are 7. The first component of halal excellence is that you should not have any compromises on inputs. And inputs can be the ingredients you're using in your food products or in non-food products. The equipment you're using have to be high quality, and the people are very important. So these people should be well educated, well trained. Trained on halal, but also trained on conventional concepts in quality or how best to operate a production line. Also, processes are important, and the only way to have a high performance business, to have a high performance in terms of halal integrity, that you have organized your processes well. So there should be no compromise on inputs as well as processes, your business processes. The second foundation of halal excellence is that you need to have halal excellence by design. So you need to create a consistent, complete and clear operations, halal assurance systems. So if you want to get halal certified, you need to establish a halal assurance system based, if you want to be certified in food, you need to be certified by the MS 1500 2019, which is a halal food standard. There are also halal cosmetic standards and pharmaceutical standards and supply chain standards. So the basis of your certification is a halal assurance system. If you want to be certified or not certified yet, you have to establish a halal assurance system. Secondly, it's important to have a halal supply chain management in place, which you can also describe in your halal assurance system. But also branding and marketing is important. That you have, how do you brand halal? Is it at the forefront, or you have an ingredient approach to halal? And the marketing, a lot of companies are involved in marketing their products, how to market halal products. And finally, but also Rosie mentioned, risk management is very important. You have to protect your corporate reputation as your brand. You want to grow your brand, so you have to protect your reputation. And over the past years, we have seen various scandals, issues with companies where their halal integrity and the halal reputation was put in question. And a lot of people, almost everybody has Facebook, Instagram, and many more accounts, and a lot of stories go viral, which can damage your brand. So it's good to protect yourself. Although you have established a good system to manage your halal, it's still important to practice and repeat. So the same for artists, musicians, or sportsmen. Practice makes perfect. So it's important that you also, once you put your system on paper, that you also practice that together with your team members, with your colleagues, with your staff. It's also important to control your entire halal supply chain. It's good to realize that maybe I will discuss later that halal requires an end-to-end approach. So it's important that you are controlling well your entire supply chain and your supply chain partners, and also control your corporate halal reputation. Over the past years, I've done a lot of research on halal reputation management. I created tools also to measure corporate halal reputation. And I'm very happy to share that the 3/4 of your corporate halal reputation depends on your own systems you put in place in your company, but only 1/4 is dependent on outside rumors or issues. So a big part you can work on yourself as a company by putting the right system in place. Number 5 of an Halal Excellence philosophy, the 5th pillar, is having the best team. So it's important that you have the best people you can get, and also train them. Next to that, as halal requires an end-to-end approach, it's also important that you work with the best supply chain partners, so your suppliers, your ingredient suppliers, but also your distributors, your logistics service providers that provide the transportation and storage throughout your supply chain and bring your products to your customers. So work with those partners. And also look at external stakeholders. So we had some bankers here in the call presenting. Banks are an important partner in giving the right financing, Sharia compliant financing, and other takaful services for your business. So also work with the right banks. Also work with the halal authorities, and there are many more important parties like Muslim associations in your key markets, and universities. I work together with universities, and learning is important, but also R&D is important. So be involved with universities to create more knowledge and to create a better system. And universities are very happy always to collaborate with businesses. And also we have smart students that are most pleased also do the practical training in your company. So make use of universities as well. Number 6 is the engagement with your customer. Your customer is extremely important, and the Muslim consumer has certain needs, has certain demands. So listen to the Muslim consumer of what kind of products he's looking for. There's also the concept of co-creation, is to create a new product together with your customers. And so work with your customers to get new inspiration and to design your products. Number 7 is to be also in balance with nature. In Islam, we talk about the concept of mizan. So be good for the environment. So how do you manage your water? How do you manage energy? Are we having solar panels, for example, on your factory? A lot of factory production operations use a lot of energy. In Malaysia, Indonesia, we have beautiful sunlight every day. And so why are we not harvesting that sunlight through solar panels? Also, minimization of waste is important. Minimizing waste, especially plastic waste that cannot be absorbed by nature. So be good for nature, because we have only one planet that we have to take care of. So these are 7 important components of halal excellence philosophy. And some of them are more difficult than others, but it is not something that can be done within a year. It is putting it in a process and building it together with your team over a period. And it is never finished, but I think these are some good guidelines to help you in creating that path towards Halal Excellence. I would like to share with you now about the Halal meat cartel scandal, which was happened last year in Malaysia, and which shake the floor in Malaysia. It was over the news for many months. It still is, in fact. So that Halal meat scandal was highlighted by the New Straits Times, a newspaper in Malaysia. I was also have been one of the writers for the New Straits Times with my own column for many years. So the New Straits Times exposed the situation that over many years that halal meat or non-halal meat has been imported in Malaysia with no halal certificate or the wrong halal certificate, and was mixed with properly halal certified halal meat in Malaysia and sold as halal and distributed further into Malaysia as halal certified meat. So Muslims in Malaysia were very worried that they possibly have been eating meat which was not properly halal certified and controlled by JAKIM. And now the government is taking a lot of efforts to find out what went wrong, who are the culprits in here, and bring them to court. Now the government is busy looking at solving this and putting a better halal ecosystem into place to learn from this, that this can never ever happen again. So as an halal supply chain expert, what is my view on this, and what can we learn about what happened? So when we talk about a halal meat supply chain, we talk about meat that comes from other countries all over the world, from Australia, New Zealand, the Americas, and Europe, that comes into Malaysia, and that needs to be distributed as halal meat. So what normally takes place, that those slaughtering plants in other countries are audited by JAKIM to confirm that the slaughtering SOPs is conform at the Malaysian requirements under the MS 1500. So JAKIM does inspection together with DVS. But it's good to realize that the halal integrity of a supply chain is a function of all links in the supply chain. So we have the slaughterhouses, we have the logistics operators, we have the shipping lines, we have the ports, we have the customs, we have the Department of Veterinary Services, we have also distributors, we have packers also in Malaysia that do the packing and processing of halal meat, and then logistics again, and then the restaurant eatery. So a halal supply chain is a complex supply chain, and it's good to realize that the halal integrity of an entire supply chain is as strong as its weakest link. So where are the weak links in a halal supply chain? So I think an important aspect is that we should communicate on freight documents, but also in IT systems, that this cargo has a halal status. And so it's important to put it on the freight documents in IT systems and to put on labels. And so when it is handled by any party in the supply chain or received at the port or checked by customs or Department of Veterinary Services, that is clearly communicated that the product has a halal status, right? Secondly, we have to relook at our seaports, airports, and land borders. So we have various land borders with other countries, so that is Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, and Brunei. So these are land borders where products can come in. Then we have seaports, where all over the world products come in from, and airports. So do these terminal operators or land borders have an halal assurance system into place, right? Are they halal certified? So there are not so many seaports and airports halal certified yet. So that might be something that we have to relook at, that there are proper SOPs in place for seaports, airports, and land borders. I think a third aspect is what happened with the halal meat. It was repacked and mixed with other meat. So I think repacking and processing of animal-based product is a very high-risk activity, and maybe we should relook at where those activities can take place. We have more than 20 halal parks in Malaysia, so it might be good to do that kind of high-risk activities of processing and repackaging of meat in a controlled environment of a halal park, for example. So what should we do? I think first of all, we have to increase the awareness of halal supply chain management. It's good to realize that there is already a Malaysian halal standard already long in place. So we have the MS 2400, which is a Malaysian halal supply chain management system standard. The first edition was in 2010, more than 10 years ago. It has 3 modules: the transport, warehouse, and also retail, right? We also have an international halal supply chain standard, OIC SMIC 17/2020, which also has the same 3 modules: transport, warehouse, and retail. So we have already halal systems into place that can support the halal supply chain. Thirdly, I think we maybe have to relook at the halal parks. I'm also a part-time academic with HELP University and University Malaya Halal Research Center, where I've been working on the concept of the halal park. And I developed together with the co-author, Dr. Rizwan, a halal park 2.0 concept, a more advanced park that provides even a better halal ecosystem as compared to what we see today. I would like to share with you some more insights into the halal supply chain. Why do we need the halal supply chain, and what is it exactly? In my book, Halal Business Management, I covered important rationales why the halal supply chain is so important, but also what are the opportunities in halal businesses for entrepreneurs like yourself. First of all, there is a big shortage of halal ingredients and additives with the right halal standards. Today, most processed ingredients and additives are imported from non-OIC countries. So these can have different standards than JAKIM's halal standard, because they are certified in their own country, in Europe or the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, or China. So these ingredients and additives are imported today. And it's important to realize, if you want to produce food products or cosmetics products, if you're using processed ingredients, they need to be certified here in Malaysia by a halal certification body of JAKIM or recognized by JAKIM. And so if you're a producer in Indonesia, under the Indonesian halal certificate, you need to work with processed ingredients that are either certified by the Indonesian Halal Authority or recognized by the Indonesian Halal Authority. And so there's a big shortage of halal ingredients, and I've seen that as an important bottleneck in the halal industry. So if you are a producer in Indonesia or Malaysia or another Muslim country with good access to natural resources, I think there's a great opportunity to produce these kinds of products. There's also a big shortage of high quality processing of consumer products in Muslim countries. We see that a lot of meat products we discussed are being imported because there's little meat production in most OIC countries. But also other consumer products and cosmetics are being imported. So there's a big shortage of domestic production in OIC countries. And today, in fact, a big part of the biggest brands are from non-OSC countries, the big halal brands like Halal, Nestle. Nestle is the largest halal brand in the world. So we see what also mentioned by other speakers is that the halal industry is dominated by micro SMEs and SMEs. They are very fragmented, but what the worrying part is that they're not only fragmented, but you see there is very little collaboration among SMEs. So I think there's an opportunity for SMEs to work together. If you work together, you can have better discounts in your purchasing of ingredients and additives, or you can work together in reducing cost in your logistics. Instead of sending half a truck to your customer, you can combine your load with another other SME, and then you have a full truck, so you can reduce transportation costs. You can also share in warehousing, and so you can reduce costs when you collaborate, and also better control your whole supply chain, because instead of working with half trucks where other cargo will be put in, that you can choose, have a better control in what cargo goes together in your transport or in your warehouse. So it leads to better halal integrity and also lower cost if you work together. And so the big brands today are dominated by non-OSC countries. So there's an opportunity for you entrepreneurs to create the new Nestle in halal. So halal is moving away from a product approach, which I will share with you later, towards a supply chain approach, also supported by halal standards, but it makes halal maybe more complex without a halal ecosystem. So a halal ecosystem can be supported by IT, so halal blockchain or similar solutions, but also by operating in a halal park. In Malaysia, we have more than 20 halal parks. So there is an opportunity also for SMEs to be located in those, so to be part of a halal ecosystem, which can simplify halal and simplify halal production. In my work and my research on halal, I discovered that halal is not static, but is going through an evolution from a Muslim company where you as small entrepreneur might not be halal certified, towards a halal product where you accept the certificate from the Malaysian Halal Certification body JAKIM, or if you're living in Indonesia, the Indonesian Halal Authority, that is the halal product. What we see now is that halal moves towards a supply chain, a halal supply chain, where halal needs to be addressed end to end, which is supported also by the halal standards in Malaysia, the MS 2400, and also the OIC SMIC standard, which is an international halal supply chain standard. The fourth phase is still future music, and the fourth phase is the halal value chain. The halal value chain looks beyond the supply chain, also addressing halal branding and marketing, also looking at sustainability, importance of Islamic banking and takaful and other Sharia compliant trade financing solutions, but also trying to remove, where possible, the animal out of ingredients and additives to simplify halal, and also look at sustainability of choosing ingredients that are more environmental friendly, reducing waste. So that is the halal value chain. That is still future music, but as an entrepreneur, you can already grab some of those components and implement them already in your company. But halal supply chain is immediately around the corner, which is supported by a halal supply chain standard, which I just shared. That evolution of halal, you can also use as a reference to at what stage am I as a company. And so I created a checklist, a halal maturity checklist, to assess at what stage am I in the evolution of halal as a Muslim company, a halal product, a halal supply chain, or even a halal value chain. It's good to realize that although you might have an Islamic bank account at one of the banks which just presented, it doesn't mean you're straight away at level 4, the halal value chain. You need to have all yeses in order to be at level 4. So if you want to have a copy of this Halal maturity checklist, you can go to my website of lbbinternational.com. So the goal of Halal supply chain management is an end-to-end Halal supply chain from source all the way to the point of consumer purchase. And source, you can say, well, that's the farm. Yes, but you might also give an animal feed to your animals. So you might even have a supplier before your farm. And the point of consumer purchase can be the supermarket, you're buying the product, or when you have a delivery all the way to your house, it is in fact all the way to your doorstep where you receive the product from that delivery guy, where you order it from online. Or when you're sitting in a restaurant where you're having your meal, that's also the end of that Halal supply chain. So the responsibility of the brand owner is all the way from source, all the way to the point of consumer purchase. After that point, it is the responsibility of the consumer to protect the food safety, but also the halal integrity. So a traditional approach to halal was a product approach to halal. Just get your product certified by JAKIM or the Indonesian Halal Certification body. After that, we didn't look too much in the supply chain. So what was the result of this? That supply chains were broken, where the halal integrity was not protected necessarily throughout the supply chain. Halal integrity could be compromised for the consumer, and there could be an issue also for the reputation of the company, and even you could lose, say, a license to operate in certain Muslim markets. So, in other words, we need to organize the halal supply chain end to end. So similar to food safety or product safety, we need to extend halal integrity all the way into the supply chain, where we can have a better control of the halal integrity and better control of the corporate reputation. So what was an important game changer, in my opinion, what happened in November, was that the OIC SMIC launched the International Halal Supply Chain Standard, the OIC SMIC 17-2020. So this is an international halal standard, which is also based on the Malaysian Halal Supply Chain Standard MS 2400. So it's important to realize that this standard is an international standard, which was launched in November last year, and which will be a global reference how to organize transportation and supply chain warehousing as well as retailing all over the world. So that's a game changer, which also gives the importance also for companies to refer to this standard when doing international business, imports and exports.
Dr. Marco, can you wrap up your session, please?
I will. Thank you so much, Said Alwi. As a professor, I'm used to talk for 2 hours, so this is a little bit shorter. I will try to wrap up. So it's important to look at the supply chain end to end. I will just skip some of these slides. When we talk about the halal supply chain, it's important to realize it has 3 components in organizing a supply chain. So first of all is you want to avoid cross-contamination, which you can address by proper packaging. Risk of contamination is important by addressing physical segregation in the supply chain, as well as communicating on the trade documents that the product is halal, and perception. And the perception is based on the Islamic schools of thought, fatwas, and local customs, which means that halal supply chains to different countries is also different, because Malaysia's perception of halal, which is framed by also fatwas and local customs and the Shafi'i school of thought, is different from Saudi Arabia. So meaning that when you organize an export supply chain to different markets, your supply chain requirements might also be different. So for example, for Indonesia, you might require ritual cleansing, but ritual cleansing is not practiced in the Middle East of Africa. For those markets, You don't need to do a ritual cleansing. So if you're interested to learn more about halal supply chain management, iPortal also created a course on halal supply chain management, which I'm teaching in the iPortal. So please go to iPortal to learn more about the courses available. And if you want to learn more about my book, go to my website of halalbusinessmanagement.com. Thank you so much, and look forward for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Marco, on your session on halal supply chain. So Malaysia's halal certification is a sign of trustworthiness, indicating genuineness by Muslims and for Muslims. In fact, it is also an important indicator of hygiene product quality. Malaysia's halal stamp in itself is a global approval or global recognition of halal quality, hygiene quality, and is one of Malaysia's contributions to the global halal industry. That is why when there are allegations regarding non-compliance to halal standards or halal supply chain processes, the authorities in Malaysia take serious note regarding these allegations, and as we speak, investigations are underway to nip the problem in the bud. With regards to halal compliance, let us now hear from an expert on digital and technology solutions on halal compliance. For our next session, we have Dr. Muhammad Iskandar, who is the CEO and founder of Holistics Lab Sendirian Berhad and a senior lecturer at the Azman Hashim International Business School, UTM. Holistics Lab is a UTM spin-off company that is responsible for commercializing digital innovation and technology for halal industry. Dr. Iskandar will be showing us a demo of one of the digital solutions for halal compliance. So let us welcome Dr. Iskandar to present his topic titled "The Fastest and Easiest Way to Halal Compliance." Over to you, Doctor.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wasahbihi ajma'in. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Said Alwi, for your kind introductions, and also thank you very much to iPortal for giving me the opportunity to share some of our innovations that we've been developed for several years, and also to all the esteemed speakers that have been doing a very good job in terms of explaining into various different kind of aspects regarding the halal certifications. Okay, so as mentioned by Mr. Said Alwi just now, I'm going to divide my presentation actually into two sections. The first one I'm going to highlight in terms of the needs for the technology, especially on the halal compliance, and the second one I'm going to give a live demo of how this technology can be implemented as not only for SME but any company who wants to embark into halal certifications. Okay, now, all right, so before I proceed with the needs, I just want to highlight about the roles and also objective of Holistics Labs Sendirian Berhad. So we have three major visions and also missions for this company. The first one, we want to help more companies to get halal certification through the halal industry consultations. The second one is we also was appointed by JAKIM as one of the halal certified training provider, and on top of that we have a core focus on developing technological solutions for the halal economy. So for today, obviously I cannot explain all those three different kind of focus that we have, so I'm going to focus more on the digital solutions that we call as quick halal, which we call as the fastest, easiest and also smartest way to halal and also food safety compliance. As we've already heard from Puan Rosie, okay, Mr. Rizal of Bank Islam, okay, Mr. Rizal of Alliance Bank, as well as okay, Prof. Marco Timan, one of the important aspects in terms of halal certification is compliance. Okay, so Mr. Rizal from Alliance Bank already highlighted several kind of challenges why company, especially SME, having difficulties okay, to get halal certification. So one of the suggestions from Mr. Rizal of Bank Islam is through adoption and also adapting to technology, especially when I talk about COVID-19 nowadays. So these are one of the reasons to speed up the process of adopting into the technology. And as mentioned by Prof. Marco Timan just now, okay, halal assurance system is one of the very important aspect okay, for any company to get into the halal economy. But nevertheless, okay, we also need to understand about the process. Okay, so if you look into this diagram, so these are the general representation of how a company can go into halal certification through the compliance. So I'm assuming that most of the companies already know that in order for us to get the halal certification, one of the important thing is that the company will be audited by the authority. So when look into the case of Malaysia, right, so the authority is JAKIM. Okay, so JAKIM will come at the end of the process, okay, by doing the halal audit in the company. Okay, but of course, in order for us, for the company to have a higher chances, okay, to get the halal certification, you need to assess yourself. So as mentioned by Mr. Rizal of Alliance Bank, okay, you need to assess your readiness, okay, towards getting the halal certification, and we call this as the halal compliance. If you look into the left-hand side of the diagram, okay, the halal audit, which is part of the compliance, will fall into three different kind of sub-process. So the first one is planning, the second one is auditing, and the third one is reporting. So unfortunately, when I talk about okay, halal audit, there are still various different kind of challenges. If you look into the planning, okay, you need to understand okay, the type of product or services that you have. Okay, and based on this product or services, you need to understand about the basic requirement as well as the specific requirement. And at the end, before you go into the audit process, you need to have some kind of checklist, because through this checklist, then you can assess your readiness. Okay, the next part is quite easy, which is and fun part, which is the auditing process. But somehow, if you bring your manual checklist, you also need to collect evidence. So evidence collection process is a very important part within the auditing process. And finally, you need to do the reporting. So all these three processes okay, will be the fundamental aspect okay, of the halal audit process. Okay, on top of that, okay, this problem is also not being faced only by the SME, but also by the existing company who already have halal certification. So one of the latest announcement okay, made by JAKIM earlier this year is that there are several changes and also updates related to manuals as well as the standards. Okay, there are three major changes. The first one is the MPPHM, the manual procedure for Malaysia halal certification. So previously we have in the year 2014, but somehow for this year, okay, JAKIM already start with the MPPHM 2020. That is the first one. The second one also is regarding the standards. So in Malaysia, we have various different kind of standards whereby different company need to comply to these different kind of standards. And another one is the introductions of the Malaysia halal management system that need to be followed okay, in order for you to develop your own halal assurance system. So this is the update coming from MPPHM. Last time, before 2021, we have only 7 different kind of category. But this year, the addition of 2 scheme, which is halal OEM as well as the medical devices. And as I mentioned before about the MPPHM 2014, previously we have only 13 different kind of sub-component. But okay, this year they add another 3, which with a total of 17 different kind of component within MPPHM. So the challenge here is all companies who wants to get halal certification, you need to comply to all these 17 different kind of okay, component within MPPHM. And these are the additions, okay, and also the latest updates in terms of Malaysian standard. So at the moment, we already have 14 different kind of standards, okay, and different kind of company need to comply to different kind of standards. Okay, now, okay, before I scare you off, okay, in terms of how to get halal certifications. Okay, we want to provide you with a solutions. Okay, as I mentioned before, we have Quick Halal, which is the first cloud-based mobile halal auditing apps. Okay, the main purpose of Quick Halal is to help you with the halal audit by providing you with the most comprehensive halal audit checklist, which is up to date. And in fact, in Quick Halal, we already have MPPHM 2020, all the Malaysian standard as well as the MHMS. And since we are using our own mobile devices, okay, we can capture the photos, and based on these photos evidence, okay, we can also annotate the evidence. And after that, at the end, okay, we can instantly and automatically produce the report so that you can assess, okay, whether you are complying or not with your Malaysia Halal certification. So our objective is that we want to significantly reduce the time of the halal audit from 24 months down to only 3 hours. Okay, and Quick Halal already can be downloaded from Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Okay. Right now, before I proceed with the demo, okay, let us look into this one scenario. Okay, so now it's already March, okay, and Ramadan is fast approaching. So assuming that we want to help a company who wants to produce kuih raya or raya cookies, right? So we want to help them, okay, how they can get the halal certifications. So this is one of the scenario which I want to assist you, want to help you in terms of how does Quick Halal can assist this SME or micro company to get the halal certification, right? So let me show you the, okay, hold on. Okay, right. Okay, Mr. Syed, can you see this in full screen?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the live demo of Quick Halal. So I've already installed in my mobile phone. So after you install, okay, you can see the icon of Quick Halal. And after that, you can just start. We have a splash screen. And after that, you need to, okay, key in your username and also password. So at the moment, Quick Halal is available in various different kind of language. Okay, we have in Bahasa Malaysia, English, Chinese, Japanese, Russian, and also Korean. But of course, okay, I'm going to use English, okay, for this demo. Right, so once you already log in, okay, you're going to go straight into the user, okay, and obviously this one will be the halal auditor, okay, halal internal auditor of the company, or maybe the consultants. So if you look into this, okay, if you look at the top, we have home and also audit list. So if you look at the audit list, it will show you the previous list of audit that you already conducted. So we divided into two. The first one, okay, the purple one, the green one is the completed halal audit, and the pink or red one is the ongoing halal audit. So assuming that if you conduct the halal audit, after that you want to take a break, and after that you can just continue, right? Okay, or delete the halal audit. So going back to the home screen, okay, you already have the names, and after that it is very simple. Okay, you can just go to the audit button, okay, here, right, and go back to the company that we want to assist. Or maybe if you are working for the company, you can just put, let's say, the name ABC Raya Cookies Enterprise, okay. And the next part is that you need to put your address. Okay, so we also provide you with the geotag locations to identify, okay, your locations. And if you choose the geotag locations, okay, it's going to show you, okay, the address that you are now. Okay, so after that, you're going to the scheme. So as I mentioned that in Malaysia, all right, there are 9 different kind of scheme for halal certification. So if you look into that scheme, we provide the comprehensive all 9 schemes, which you can just choose, because each one of these scheme will have different kind of checklists. So we have F&B, okay, we have cosmetic, consumer goods, and on top of that, we also have Indonesia halal audit checklist here in Quick Halal. right? But again, for this main purpose, for this demo purposes, okay, I'm going to use the MS 1500, okay, 2019, okay, demo FMB. Okay, so once you already choose the scheme, you can also choose the size of the company, because the size of the company will also influence, okay, the checklist. So the last one is the start date. Okay, we already have it from the system, and after you click next, voila. Okay, we already have the comprehensive checklist, okay, based on that 17 different kind of category. Okay, so if you look up here, all right, we have the drop down list. Okay, you can see there, those are the 17 different kind of subcomponent which already divided into various different kind of, okay, parts within MPPHM. So if you go into the first one, for example here, right, so one of the requirement is that, okay, you need to have a valid food premises registration certificate from BKKM. So that is the first one, the second one, the third one, and so forth. Okay, so as a halal auditor, your job or your roles is to identify each one of the item in order for you to assess the readiness of that company. So instead of having a paper checklist which consists of yes or no, okay, you can just go to the left hand side. Okay, you can just click on the check button. So if they don't have it, okay, just leave it. Okay, now, so that is the basic fundamental aspect of Quick Halal, but at the same time, there are more information that you can get from Quick Halal. If you look here, we have 3 dots on the right-hand side. So if you look into that 3 dots, okay, we have collect evidence, non-conformance, reference, notes, as well as non-applicable. Okay, I want to start first, okay, with the reference. Okay, we want to know, okay, this first one have a halal, have a valid food premise registration certificate. Where does it come from? So if you look into that 3 dots, look into the third parts, okay, which is reference. Okay, if you choose reference, okay, it will come from MPPHM 2020, page number 10, Clause 5.3. So that is the exactly location where does the first item in this checklist, okay, being located. So I just want to emphasize here is that all the items in Quick Halal will refer either to MPPHM or Malaysian standard or other different kind of standard which is related in order for you to get the halal certificate. Okay, so the same thing like for the second one, if you look into the reference, okay, it is still MPPHM. So I just want to show you, if you want to go into the next part, okay, you can just swipe left and right. Okay, right. So again, if you look here, if you look into the reference, okay, we also provide, okay, the references coming from MS 1500 2009 as well as MS 1500 2019. Okay, so that is the reference. We also want to know if you don't have that valid food premises registration certificate. So what are the impact? Okay, so we also put here in terms of the type of non-conformance. So if you don't have that, okay, you are going to having a major non-compliance. So according to JAKIM, there are 4 different kind of non-compliance: minor, major, serious technical, as well as serious Sharia. And for each of these items will have various different kind of impact, okay, in terms of the non-conformance. So the next part I just want to highlight, okay, in terms of how can we collect the evidence. Okay, so just want to go into the 5th one here, have a valid SSM business license. So we want to identify the evidence. We choose the 3 dots. Okay, the first one is the collect evidence. So go into the collect evidence, we can just take either from the gallery or coming from the camera. So assuming that we want to take from the gallery, maybe we have it already in your system. Okay, we go into the gallery and after that we can just choose, okay, the top right hand parts. Okay, that evidence already being attached to this one, okay, item. So at the end, okay, it's already comply. So we just want to see the bigger photos. Okay, so these are the SSM, okay, evidence that we have. So the next part is quite simple. Okay, just go through one by one. Okay, so right, of course, okay, in the real sense, okay, we need to go through, okay, this process, okay, really thoroughly. Okay, but here, let's say if you want to conduct the when you assess in terms of your workers' readiness, okay, we want to look into, okay, for example, workers' personal hygiene is always at the best, okay? So assuming that you capture the evidence and you have this kind of scenario, okay? Right, which one is it? Okay, let's say this one, now. Okay. Okay, but again, okay, just want to show you, okay, an example, assuming that you see, okay, your staff or maybe the company that non-compliance. So you want to annotate, okay, which are the staff here who are violating the compliance. So you can just use your finger, right? Use your finger, okay, and can just highlight, okay, this one problem. Okay, and if you don't like it in red, okay, you can just change it to the yellow, and we can just highlight another one. So the next part is just save, then that, okay, evidence is already in the system. But somehow for this, you cannot check because it is violating. So just leave it like that. Okay, right. So I just want to collect another evidence coming from the camera, for example. Right. So this is the photo from my office. Okay, so that is another evidence. Okay, the next part, right? So the next part, okay, all these are the documentation. Okay, the specific requirement. Okay, product menu. By the way, all this is coming from MPPHM. It's not something like that we just create. Okay, all five of just without any reason. So this is also the law and regulations, OEM. Okay, management responsibility. Okay, hygiene. Right, okay, and also training. Okay, so again, as mentioned by Prof. Marco Timon just now, training is also very important, and we want to collect the evidence. So let's say we want to see, okay, so this is the actual training which has been conducted, okay, in the company, right? So that is the halal record, okay, and at the end, okay, we've already finished. So we already passed, okay, with the preparing or the planning of the halal audit, and also we already complete, okay, performing the halal audit. The last part is preparing the report. But before we go into the report, we just want to know, okay, the audit performance of that ABC company. So we can just click on the audit performance, and voila, okay, so we already have the results, okay, straight away from that halal audit. So if you look here, we have 91, okay, 91, okay, different type of items, okay, and out of 99 and 91, 88 or 96.7 is already complied, but still we have 2 minor non-compliance as well as 1 major non-compliance. So now we want to know, okay, what are those major compliance? Okay, so if you look up here, it's going to list down, okay, these are one of that issues. Okay, so the thing again, you can just negotiate. Okay, let's say if they can still rectify, if they can immediately rectify those issues, maybe you can just give them, okay, the opportunity, okay, in terms of negotiating with the results. So if you go back to the audit performance, that 1 major is no longer there. So the same thing like the minor, can just go to the minor issues. There are the 2 different kind of minor issues, but again, if they cannot provide any evidence, you can just leave it like that. Okay, you can just go back to the summary, and after that, you can just put some kind of conclusion here, right? So you can just put comment, need further improvement, for example, and after that you can just finish audit. And the final things before you produce the audit report is that you need to have some kind of endorsement, okay, and also signature from the auditors as well as the auditee. So let's say I'm the auditor here, right? I can just put my credential here, save, and after that we ask the auditee to provide the, okay, signature as well. So assuming that this one is Ahmad, okay, this one is manager of that company ABC, and after that save. And the final step before we go to the report is we can just finish audit. Okay, now why we ask yes or no, we just want to make sure that you already confirm with the result, because once you already confirm, you cannot change the halal audit report. So if you go to yes, you're going to back to the home screen, and from this home screen we're going to into the last step, which is producing the report. So producing the report is very easy, because what you can do is you can just click on that halal audit, okay, the ABC Raya Cookies Enterprise, and we provide various different kind of halal report, from the full audit report as well as the non-compliance audit report. So I just want to show you, okay, the full audit report, okay, how quick, okay, that we can produce the audit report. So we're going to take, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, then voila, okay. So the halal audit report is already there for you, Okay, so we have the name, the company, the address, all those different kind of thing, and we have all the every single items. Okay, from the checklist here together with the evidence. Okay, that support, okay, the compliance of the items. So we go into the second page, the third page, okay, right. After that, we also have the workers here, okay. So the next one, okay, and fast forward, okay, go into the last one, okay, we have the signature, okay, we have the signature here, and lastly, also with the audit performance, okay, analytics, okay, and we also provide the appendix that show the bigger photos of the evidence here. Okay, so within few seconds, we already have a 27 page of the halal audit report. And the next part is that how can you share this? Okay, maybe to the auditee or maybe to the internal halal committee. So we also provide, okay, various different kind of approach for you to share and also store your halal audit. So once you click at the 3 dots above, okay, you can share it, okay, through WhatsApp, okay, you can just email it, or maybe you can just, okay, store it in various different kind of cloud services. So it's up to you. Okay, so assuming that I just want to share it, okay, with our groups, okay, in iPortal, so I just send it. Okay, I hope that you guys, okay, can receive the audit report. I'm sorry for the going through very quick, because I know that, okay, my time is not very much, but I'm really looking forward for any kind of questions, okay, from the audience. Okay, if you have any questions, okay, I'm more than happy to assist you, to help you with the how Quick Halal can help the companies, not only for the SMEs, not only for the micro, but also for the multinational companies. And before we end up, I think maybe I can just highlight also which is Quick Halal has been endorsed, okay, by JAKIM, and back in 2018, okay, Quick Halal was launched by JAKIM, and at the moment we have various different kind of users, okay, and one of them is McDonald's Malaysia, who are using Quick Halal, okay, in all 310 outlets, okay, in Malaysia. Okay, thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Mr. Said.
Thank you, Dr. Iskandar, for a very energetic presentation and a very important presentation, highlighting some of the latest trends and digital solutions on halal processes and halal compliance. This is basically taking the entire halal compliance and halal audit to the next level of digital revolution. Now, for our next session, ladies and gentlemen, we will be covering another important component of business strategy of a halal SME, and that is in branding and marketing. For that, we have Professor Jonathan Wilson, a very well-known figure in terms of branding and marketing, but his presentation will be shown via a video recording. Stay tuned.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Happy to be giving you a talk, unhappy to be giving you a talk through video. What can I say? When am I going to see you again? But for now, here goes. So, I've been asked to reflect upon halal in a kind of post-COVID. Are we post-COVID yet? Or during this kind of COVID phenomenon, and 2020 really has been, I think it's been a completely unexpected year for a number of reasons. But let's just kind of remind ourselves of why we're doing what we're doing. And I was reminded by that fact this morning because I was giving a lecture to my postgraduate students about sustainability. Now, I'm going to share some slides with you about some of the key themes with regards to sustainability. And if you didn't already know, they have this thing called a triple bottom line, which is people, profit, and planet. Now, you might think to yourself, hey, that's what we do in halal. You are absolutely right. It's exactly what we do in halal. We think about people, we think about the planet, and we think about profits and of course the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So depending on how you spell that, is it about making money, or is it about a divine connection with the greatest of all creation? It's both of those, right? Because we wouldn't be talking at a conference like this and doing what we're doing if we didn't have sustainable business models. So one of the key things that's come up in my thinking is just sustainability and post-COVID era means, are we building robust business models, right? Now, by that, what I mean is, do we have a business tomorrow? As best as we can plan, of course. I mean, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's just think about that, because if you look in mainstream press, there have been a lot of businesses which have gone into liquidation, have closed down, have shut down stores. And there have been lots of reasons why. They'll say, oh, they didn't pivot well enough. People haven't been able to go into their stores. But I would like to focus on some of the things that I think are the main culprits. Number one, business strategy. And by that, what I mean is, if you're not planning for the short, medium, and long term, strategically, looking at your bottom line and your balance sheets, it's very difficult to survive these unexpected circumstances such as COVID-19 that we're experiencing. And I'd like to go even in more detail and say that some of the businesses that we're seeing in the headlines, household names that have been around for decades, are not able to cope. Why? Because they're saddled with debt. Now, we as Muslims know that debt is something that we should avoid, but I want to reinforce that point that, you know, there are lots of talks about, you know, getting out loans or halal loans, and I'm not going to be the judge on whether you do or do not, but let's be clear on this. Be very careful about taking on more than you can cope with, and debt is one of the number one ways to pull you under, because if you think about a business model that has savings, if you want to call it a war chest, call it a war chest. But if you have savings, then you have the ability to shoulder the burden when these calamities strike. You also have the money to be able to reinvest and redeploy in new areas. So smart thinking would be save some money for that rainy day or that calamity, but also think about how you can wisely invest that money so that you have a future. Now, what do I mean by wisely invest? I can think of some key areas, one of which is people. If we are not, as a halal community, investing in our young people, or people who are looking for an alternative career, people who have not really thought about halal as being a legitimate profession, we should be reaching out to those people, especially because they would have key skills in areas that could enrich what it is that we do within the halal community. So I think that we need to go on a charm offensive and remind people and resell and refine our proposition as to what halal means, not just from a consumption perspective, but also from a business perspective, why it's important for our community to get behind this. Because if you're thinking about us having control of our own destiny with regard to certification, accreditation, having businesses that we can exist within, that we are more comfortable with, where there is barakah, then we have to present this opportunity to more people. Now, beyond people, the other thing that I would say, and no surprise, right, because I wrote a book on halal branding, would be that we have to invest in our brands. Now, by that, what I mean is, and I want to remind us of that simple calculation. Let's take, for example, a pair of sneakers or a pair of trainers. Now, most of them are made in places like Bangladesh, Vietnam, places like that, and they cost about, sadly, $8 to make. Now, if that item, functional item, because it's about footwear, getting you from one place to another, keeping your feet dry, if you were to sell it in the marketplace, roughly you can only charge double what it cost you to make. If there was no made in America, made in Vietnam, made in Bangladesh, there was no Adidas, Nike, whatever your favorite brand is, because people would see only the functional value in what it is that you are selling. And I reckon you'd get $16 tops. And that's probably in a developed nation. However, we know that when you put that Nike swoosh, the Adidas 3 stripes, whether that's a pair of Yeezys by Kanye West, which if you don't know, ask your children, goes for 10 times the amount of an Adidas normal pair of trainers. That's what a brand can do. So investing in a brand in order to build that image, identity, personality, and reputation that allows people to understand more about why you're doing what you're doing, to have an emotional connection, for them to feel a sense of prestige and value. It's those things that allow you to charge a premium. And if you can charge a premium, you can invest those back in your business. You invest them back in your business, and then you have a bigger war chest, or you can spend more on advertising, and this kind of multiplier effect of the brand continues, right? And that's really important. So I often think that we overlook branding. I've said on a number of occasions that if we only sell ourselves on the functional benefits, right, as in suitable for Muslims, ingredients are halal, then we're not getting extra money in the same way as other successful brands do, right? So think about, even when we talk about the ingredients, let me give you a top tip, right? If you think about certain objects, let's take oud, right? The fragrance that we wear, if it came from Cambodia, or if it came from Yemen, or let's take honey, if the honey came from Hadramaut in Yemen, if it came from Morocco, if it came from New Zealand and it's Manuka honey, those words linked to that product also have meaning inside them. And inside that, through years of exposure, experience, conversations and articles, people are prepared to pay a little bit extra. Just like tomatoes versus Italian, sun-blushed, Mediterranean tomatoes, right? Each of those words paints a picture in people's mind that translates into them wanting to spend a little bit more. Now, they're not consciously thinking that, they're unconsciously thinking that. But that's the job of people like us who do branding, advertising, communications. It's to understand the psychology behind consumption. So, build your brand. Think about your communication strategy. So if we go in a little bit more deeply, advertising we know is expensive, right? Branding costs money too, but there is a return on those things if you are in it for the long-term gain. Now, if we focus on communications, one of the things that I've been impressed on this year, we've had to pivot. So we're doing this conference online, right? People are using Zoom calls, Microsoft Teams, some people using Skype, and more people are doing videos, vlogging. So my top tip to you would be, think about how you can use these multimedia formats more effectively. So for example, I'm recording this video at home in my office, right? So you can see that I've invested in a microphone. I'm actually using my smartphone. This is just my regular iPhone, and I've got some basic understanding of editing software. But effectively what you see here is my own broadcast studio, because I can record videos, I can do Zoom calls, I can do live streaming, and this is a very direct way to communicate with people. So if we think about the entire ecosystem, the halal value chain, whether that's promoting our ideas and our identities, we don't necessarily have to rely upon news channels to broadcast our message. We can go directly to our business partners, stakeholders, people in the value chain, and consumers through video. So learn how to do video. The technical aspects, but also just the aspects of being able to convey emotions and get factual information on pat so that you get really good at it. Because the better that you get at it, the more direct you can be and just sending things out frequently, right? So take advantage of social media. If I was to do a check, whether that's halal certifiers, halal brands, Muslim brands, and looked at their social media feeds, I think that there's more that we could do. There's definitely more that we could do to elevate our identities and reputations. And if we do it and encourage other people to do it and get involved, the multiplier effect is through word of mouth. You've got this trail of messages and information, which is always going to be there, is searchable, is linked to hashtags, and we can get our message further afield. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you a clip. So apart from doing video, I've also been looking at AI, artificial intelligence, and here's a piece of software that I subscribed to, which uses artificial intelligence actors. So you're going to hear my words spoken by another person with an accent that I've selected. I've selected the model, I've selected the accent. It's still in beta phase, so I haven't got full choice of accents or full choice of images of people. I've got a selection of actors, but let's see what you think. And here's the little trick that I'm going to put in there. I, using things like Google Translate, can do it in different languages. Now, I can't speak those languages very well, so you're going to have to listen and then let me know in the comments below whether those translations are good enough. See you in a bit.
Professor Jonathan Wilson says that in a mobile-first, integrated marketing communications brandscape, the way marketers find ways to grab attention and engineer engagement has never been easier, but at the same time never more challenging. Because the reality is that consumer attention spans are shorter, and they see marketing often as an unwanted intrusion. To combat this, advertisements, brands, and especially influencers are designed to elicit emotional responses. They use images, videos, colors, music, slogans, and descriptions designed to engage our feelings. Also, they attempt to evoke rational thought by driving depth of consumer involvement. This at times may be a form of post-rationalization and dissonance-reducing behavior in order to remove cognitive dissonance. What Professor Wilson means here is that if consumers are not thinking and feeling to a sufficient level, then they will ignore messages. However, if they are engaged, then consumers create meanings to support their reality. Digital marketing is no longer a subset of conventional marketing, it is a necessary element within all marketing. With these thoughts in mind, Professor Wilson provides the following definitions. A brand buys you something, which is a blend of tangible and intangible functions. It is a human form of cultural expression, designed to communicate meaning and deliver current or future value, which may accrue over time. Branding is a strategic and concise means of expressing, amplifying, and controlling who you are, what you do, who you are associated with, and what you own, for competitive gains, using a variety of communication methods and media that are both collaborative and measurable. The key word here is value. How you want to define value and from whose perspective is open to your own interpretations.
تستخدم العلامة التجارية التي تراها تمارس اليوم الكثير من المفاهيم والممارسات والتي نشأت من المسيحية. مساهمة البروفيسور ويلسون هي طرح السؤال: ما الذي يتغير إذا كانت بدلاً من ذلك تبني نظريتك على تعاليم من ديانة أخرى؟ نستخدم كلمات مثل الأيقونات أو نسمع الناس يتحدثون عن الغناء من نفس ورقة الترنيمة. هذه أفكار مستعارة من المسيحية. ربما يكون الاستثناء الوحيد للغة والمصطلحات التي نستخدمها في العلامات التجارية هو كلمة أفتور، والتي تأتي من الهندوسية. الآن، إذا نظرنا إلى تأثير ذلك على تفكيرنا، فإننا نفهم أن الصورة الرمزية تنقل رسالة مفادها أن هذه الصورة ليست الصورة الكاملة. لدينا الكثير من الهويات. لذلك، ما يقوله البروفيسور ويلسون هو أننا يجب أن نطبق ما تعلمناه من الإسلام ونستخدمه لتوجيه نظرياتنا وممارساتنا. من الناحية العملية، يقول إن هذا لن يعني فقط أن العلامة التجارية تعمل بشكل أفضل للمنتجات التي تلبي احتياجات المؤمنين المسلمين، ولكن أيضاً يمكن للمسلمين الآن تمييز منتجاتهم لأي شخص بشكل أصيل ونزاهة. การสร้างตราสินค้าที่คุณเห็นในปัจจุบันใช้แนวคิดและแนวปฏิบัติมากมายซึ่งมีต้นกำเนิดมาจากศาสนาคริสต์การมีส่วนร่วมของศาสตราจารย์วิลสันคือการถามคำถามว่าจะมีการเปลี่ยนแปลงอะไรหากคุณใช้ทฤษฎีของคุณเป็นหลักในคำสอนจากศรัทธาอื่นเราใช้คำเหมือนไอคอนหรือได้ยินคนพูดถึงการร้องเพลงจากแผ่นเพลงเดียวกันสิ่งเหล่านี้เป็นแนวคิดที่ยืมมาจากศาสนาคริสต์อาจมีข้อยกเว้นเพียงอย่างเดียวสำหรับภาษาและคำศัพท์ที่เราใช้ในการสร้างแบรนด์คือคำว่า avatar ซึ่งมาจากศาสนาฮินดูตอนนี้ถ้าเราดูว่ามีผลต่อความคิดของเราอย่างไรเราจะเข้าใจว่า avatar บ่งบอกข้อความว่าภาพนี้ไม่ใช่ภาพที่สมบูรณ์เรามีตัวตนอีกมากมายดังนั้นสิ่งที่ศาสตราจารย์วิลสันกล่าวคือเราควรประยุกต์ใช้การเรียนรู้จากศาสนาอิสลามและใช้เป็นแนวทางในทฤษฎี และแนวทางปฏิบัติของเรายิ่งไปกว่านั้นเขากำลังบอกว่าไม่เพียงแต่จะหมายความว่าการสร้างตราสินค้าจะทำงานได้ดีขึ้นสำหรับผลิตภัณฑ์ที่จัดทำขึ้นสำหรับผู้นับถือศาสนาอิสลามเท่านั้นแต่ตอนนี้ชาวมุสลิมสามารถสร้างตราสินค้าให้กับทุกคนได้อย่างแท้จริงและด้วยความซื่อสัตย์
The branding that you see practiced today uses a lot of concepts and practices which originate from Christianity. Professor Wilson's contribution is to ask a question: what changes if instead you base your theory on the teachings from another faith? We use words like icons, or hear people talk about singing from the same hymn sheet. These are ideas borrowed from Christianity. Maybe the only exception to the language and terms that we use in branding is the word avatar, which comes from Hinduism. Now, if we look at what effect that has on our thinking, we understand that an avatar conveys a message that this image is not the complete picture. We have many more identities. Therefore, what Professor Wilson is saying is that we should apply our learning from Islam and use it to guide our theories and practices. More practically, he is saying that not only will it mean that branding works better for products that are catering for the Muslim faithful, but also that Muslims now can brand their products to anyone authentically and with integrity.
Okay, welcome back. What did you think? Was it good? Good enough, probably, right? So let's look at it like this. I had a script and I pasted it into this software and I could select different languages and now I can broadcast throughout the world in their native tongues. So one of the things that I've learned from COVID is to be more entrepreneurial and to think about how I can utilize technology effectively. Another example I'd like to share with you is in the UK, there is a farm called Willowbrook Farm, which is Muslim-owned, family-owned business, and they take orders for halal meat from animals that they've raised, and they are able to send via courier through ice packs and everything orders. Now, you might think that's not very revolutionary, but the key here is that they have got a compressed supply chain, right? So we can call that disintermediation. And what we mean by that is that they are going straight to consumer. But going straight to consumer means that apart from increasing your opportunity for profits, you're also increasing your opportunities to communicate directly with the consumer. Newsletters, helpful top tips, friendly messages, how are you doing? Did it arrive on time? All of those things are really important. So I'd ask the question, certifiers, restaurants, hotels, food companies, beverage companies, all of these different businesses, do you talk enough to your customers? And talk enough doesn't mean broadcast, this is what we're doing, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Eid Mubarak, Alhamdulillah, we are Muslims. It means, well, what do you think? And replying to them, or do you have any top tips? What's your favorite recipe? You know, where do you like to go on holiday? And generating that communication, because if you're at the center of the communication, the multiplier effect is that word of mouth elevates your brand and your reputation and your image and your identity and your personality. So, carrying on from that, I want us to think, how's our personality? In this quest for raising the status of halal, brand Islam, brand halal, whatever you want to call it, do we understand the components of branding sufficiently? So the corporate identity, the holding company, the product brand, which is different than the company identity, the whole product line, our public relations, our communications, all of these different units. If it's confusing, hey, give me a call. I can give you kind of a whistle-stop tour on the difference between a corporate brand, a product brand, a certification brand on the back of the packaging, and what each of those mean and how they work together. But there has to be an overlap, right? Your vision, your mission, your purpose, people's perceptions, the value they attribute to those things, all have to work in tandem to give you a more consolidated, branded identity. And if you're not convinced yet, a brand means that you are more easily identified, easier to find, you're on the top of people's mind, so that when they think about something, they think about you. And also, if, and these things do happen, if things go wrong, they can find you and you can apologize. And people that have a good image, identity, personality that people are familiar with are more likely to be forgiven. Think about your friends, people on the WhatsApp group and the rest of us. If somebody makes a mistake, but you know who that person is, you can vouch for them, you forgive them, right? If you don't know who they are, it creates suspicion. So I want us to be reminded of the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was Al-Amin, the trustworthy. The Sahaba had characteristics that we can recognize and celebrate and talk about hundreds of years later. But one of the reasons that they were able to communicate those things to us was because they were narration chains, verified narration chains. So some of you might be thinking, aha, blockchain. Blockchain could do that. Social media can do that too. There are lots of different aspects of technology that allow us to link pieces of information together, and we can check for ourselves, which in a world now where we have these crazy terms which make no sense, fake news, alternative truths, and you're going to see deep fake happening where, as I use that augmented reality example, people will be doing that to change the words of people so that it spreads confusion, right? So in this fog, in these clouds, we have to think about how we can rise above. Rise above means lead by example, and leading by example means having a vital part in people's everyday lives through communication, dynamic, real-time communication from the heart, with empathy, with spirit, with spirituality, and with personality, because we're in competition with Netflix, Amazon Prime, lots of different things that are distracting people from what we want to tell them. So with that, I want you to reflect upon some of those things. And my key message then, post-COVID, is think about how we can harness the power of technology. But harnessing the power of technology means bringing people closer together. And it means putting people at the center of what it is that we want to do. And it means linking our message and what it is that we do, our meanings, to people, planet, Prophet, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, how can you do that? We have to keep talking about halal and explaining what it is that we do. We can't just assume that because somebody is Muslim, or because we state laws, or we give them certificates, or even if they're non-Muslims, that that's enough. It's not enough. I can honestly say, through years of research and publishing, humans are more emotional than rational. Appeal to the heart, appeal to the soul, make people smile, show them how to love, make them feel loved, give them opportunities to show how they love other people, and that can only help and work in your benefit. So, with that, I'd just like to say thanks very much for listening to my message. Hopefully there were some useful things in there. Please don't be a stranger. Keep in touch. And inshallah, I'm going to see you in a country very soon. Hopefully with some really nice food, and we can have a laugh and a joke and do good things. So with that, thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, why are we all waving all the time? Yeah, I kind of get it, right? It's the polite way to say goodbye, but what's the etiquette? Like, you know, we find ourselves probably waving more than we ever have. Like, is it 2 waves? Is it like a salute? Is it a finger gun? I don't know. But what I do know is that once upon a time, that seemed a little bit cheesy and uncomfortable, but now most people are doing it to say goodbye. So I'm just going to leave you there and say bye-bye.
So thank you, Professor Wilson, and I hope all of you enjoyed that session. It was partly about branding and also partly a pep talk and motivation talk for all of you SME business entrepreneurs out there to think about a lot of areas that he covered, talking about on a personal level, be careful on taking on debt against your financial sustainability. Keep reminding yourself, your people, and other people about what halal actually means from a consumption and also from a business perspective, and a lot of points regarding the psychology behind the communication strategy on branding. And one of the key points that I picked up was a logo doesn't make a brand, and a brand, invest in a brand so that you can actually charge a premium for your product. So these are some of the key highlights from his talk. Amazing talk. We are now going to talk about, we are now at the Q&A session. Some of the Q&A that were typed out have already been addressed. As I can see, it has been answered by the respective speakers. So let's not go back on those questions. All of you who are curious about the questions can look at the questions and also look at the answers. We don't have much time. So what I will do is, there is one outstanding question there, and I will wrap that question into a question for all the speakers, which the speakers can use as a question to wrap up your session and provide concluding remarks. I hope that is okay with you, all speakers. Yeah. So the question is basically this. The question is halal a cost factor or is it a competitive advantage? Why do companies have to invest in a halal certification and a halal logo or a halal stamp when it actually means additional cost for them? Will they be less competitive? Or is a halal certification actually a branding strategy that offers them competitive advantage that allows them to tap into a broader market? How would I'm elaborating the same question. How would small companies and entrepreneurs be able to cover the halal cost when it is probably an additional expense for them when they are probably at an early stage of setting up their business? Or is the investment in the halal process an investment rather than an expense? So it's one question which I've just elaborated in a bit of a long-winded way. I will start in the order of the speakers today. So with that question in mind, can I invite Puan Rosie to comment and to conclude, provide a concluding remark, all within 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum once again. Well, it's a long question actually. I'm trying to digest bit by bit, but I guess some of them can be answered by the other fellow speakers, which I'm really happy. Just to inform everybody, we did not script these presentations at all, but somehow or other, I'm so happy that everybody seems to gel their thoughts. So alhamdulillah, I think we are in sync with our ideas of how to communicate halal and halal industry, and also the opportunities to the entrepreneurs in one same mind. Alhamdulillah. So the question that I think I want to pick up from that very long question is, what does halal mean to me as a consumer? Don't ever forget that as the major stakeholder, you are the major stakeholder. We matter because we are the major stakeholders as a consumer before we even go to what we are doing, whether as a banker, whether as an entrepreneur, whether as a producer in the working in a big companies producer. First and foremost, we are always consumer. So the question is not whether I, as a business operator, want halal certification because I want to increase my sales or I want to position myself better than my competitor. You should ask yourself as a consumer, what do you look for? There were questions in the Q&A. There was some debate about the meat cartel issue. And yes, Tuan Said, it's a big issue that, okay, one, yes, is still not being resolved. We should listen to the authorities. But at the same time, it shows that the halal assurance system is very important. Alhamdulillah, I was involved, like you introduced me earlier, in the working committee. in the Malaysian standards, we make sure that the halal assurance system, the process keep on being tightened. And that's why at the latest revision 2019, we introduced the concept of halal built-in, right? The onus is back on us. We as the consumer, and then we as the provider. What's our role? We should be asking ourselves, and then from there, you decide whether is halal a commodity, or is halal a business, or is halal, like what Prof. Wilson said just now, is for people, planet,
profit,
and
the Prophet.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, that was the best, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, and I have to add one more for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so I guess my 2 minutes is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, and thank you audience for your staying up until now, and also to those who are watching the recording later. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Puan Rosie. Encik Rizal Yusof, Bank Islam. I have to be very specific which Rizal I'm referring to. Go ahead.
Right. We can see that Puan Rosie have elaborated a lot and extensively about the need of having the halal certification and whatnot. But through my engagement with JAKIM and the local halal certification body, having halal certification is not really a cost because it doesn't cost that much. But in terms of the readiness, in terms of getting all the processes in place, that will make that will require some time. That will require some audit. So that's where the cost will go into. But having said that, looking at the consumer point of view, the requirement of the consumer within the locality, within the Malaysian market, or within the halal market itself, the consumer would require that this, especially for the food industry, it has to be halal certified. It has to be halal. So they need that added comfort. So in that sense, with the fraction of the cost, you would be able to garner more market, more business, because you are looking into what the requirement of the customer, what the customer wants. The customer wants it to be halal certified. So we are making it ready and making it available for our products and services to be halal certified. So that is a fraction of the cost that will contribute to huge opportunities in terms of opening up the market, which is the halal market.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Spot on. Jerezal Al-Essan from Alliance.
Thank you. I think it's been spoken already. I echo same thoughts from Rosie as well, Jerezal. Halal is a quality system, right? Beyond the fact that it's a way by which we access new markets, it's a quality system. It's making sure that what we produce is produced in a way that's going to be acceptable by our customers, who are demanding way much more in terms of quality specifications and standards nowadays. The investment, of course, clearly is an issue, because at the early stage of your business life cycle, the amount of money that you kind of need to put into place in order to qualify for that quality standard can be quite prohibitive. And this is where I think there's an opportunity to make halal, rather than something that's going to be exclusive, we have to create modalities by which this whole process by which people get halal is more inclusive. And so there's a continuing theme throughout the conversations across all the speakers today. It's about creating that ecosystem. It's about creating communities by which we help each other out to become much more halal, to be much more aligned towards the halal values. Again, this is where I think, if I tie this back to what I spoke about earlier, banks have a major role to play. And I think if we start shifting our view from being purely shareholder-centric to become much more stakeholder-centric, then I think there's clearly a lot more that banks can do in order to create these communities and ecosystems and support systems for SMEs to venture into halal successfully. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Jerezal. Dr. Marco?
Regarding halal certification, I think we should not see it as a cost factor. I think in my talk about halal excellence, we should not have any compromises either on food safety or halal. So I think the halal brand from JAKIM is a recognition for no compromises and having halal excellence in place. It also allows you to co-brand with Jakim, which is a leading halal brand, which allows you to give market access to a lot of markets. So see it as an entry to markets, and also help you in strengthening your own corporate reputation. If we talk about the takeaways of my session, I think to all the entrepreneurs and interested in the halal industry, I think the Corona crisis should be an opportunity that should not go to waste. I mean, we have a lot of hardship endured over those last months, more than 12 months already. So we should take this opportunity to do good and to further develop the halal industry. We should embrace halal excellence and take an end-to-end approach to halal, from source all the way to the point of consumer purchase. And so there are definitely benefits also operating from a halal ecosystem. In Malaysia, you have more than 20 halal parks, which allows you to simplify halal for the entrepreneur, also to better control of your halal integrity, but also work together to create synergy advantages throughout your supply chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Marco. And finally, Dr. Iskandar, concluding remarks.
Okay, so since I'm the last one, so I'm out of answer actually, because everybody already provide a good answer to the questions. But again, from my point of view, what I can highlight is from the aspect of value propositions. So your questions, whether it is a core competency or what, is it a cost or is it an advantage? For me, basically, how if I may, okay, to sell the concept of halal certification, I will always go to the value propositions. So I think this, okay, now, okay, is the best time to focus on the halal certification because of all the issues that we have, okay, all around the world. So we have COVID-19. Okay, we also have the issue of the meat cartel. So we have lots and lots of issues related to the halal quality, as mentioned by Mr. Jerezal just now. So when we talk about halal, halal is on the quality, and also it emphasizes the aspect of integrity. Okay, so when I talk about integrity, it is very, very important. And nowadays, okay, it's not only about Muslim, the non-Muslim also support the halal, okay, logo, and also halal certification, certified, okay, products and also services. I think that is where we should go. Okay, go back to the value propositions. Okay, so that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. So let us all bring our hands, hearts, and minds together to thank all the speakers who have been very dedicated and very constructive in their ideas. I would like to quote a saying, great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. I certainly believe that I was in the presence of great minds today. We have been talking about great ideas, talking from the entrepreneurship level right up to the digital revolution of a very important industry, which is the halal industry. Hopefully we will be able to achieve greater things in your respective fields, and hopefully all of the participants who are from the halal industry and ecosystem, you have benefited from this session. Thank you to all the speakers. Final slide here, as you can see, I would like to bring your attention to some of the marketing materials of iPortal Live. This webinar was brought to you by iPortal. iPortal is currently running two competitions. One is the startup pitch competition, and the other one is the World Waqaf Day date competition. You can find more details in iPortal's Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. Hopefully you can participate or even spread the word, as Professor Wilson said, spread the word so that more people talk about these things. And in the halal context, we need to keep reminding and talking about halal so that people understand what halal is all about and the importance of halal. With that, ladies and gentlemen, all speakers, all participants, I thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a pleasant day. Thank you.